When was the last time you felt truly happy? Not because life was perfect, but because you chose to be. Most of us keep waiting for happiness, telling ourselves, I'll be happy when things get better, when problems disappear, when the future is kinder. But that day never really comes. Buddhism teaches us that happiness isn't a reward for a perfect life. It's a decision, a practice you can choose even in the middle of chaos. Worry will always appear, difficulties will always come, but you can still choose peace over fear and gratitude over complaint. The truth is, every storm you face also carries a hidden chance to grow stronger. Every difficult moment is also a test that asks, will you break under this, or will you rise above it? When you learn to rise, happiness stops being fragile. It becomes unshakable. 1. Happiness is a choice, not a reward. Most people spend their lives waiting for happiness, as if it is a prize that will only be given once every problem is solved or every desire is fulfilled. They say to themselves, I will be happy when I earn enough money, when I find the right person, when my life is free of stress, when everything finally goes my way. But this way of thinking creates a trap that never ends, because the truth is, problems never completely disappear. The moment one difficulty is resolved, another rises in its place, and if you tie your happiness to the condition of having no problems, then you will always be waiting and never living. You will keep chasing happiness as if it is running away from you, always in the distance, never within reach. Buddhism teaches a very different understanding. Happiness is not the absence of suffering. It is the courage to meet suffering with a steady and peaceful heart. Life will always bring both light and shadow, joy and pain, calm and storms. If you are waiting for life to be perfect before you allow yourself to feel happy, you will be waiting forever. But if you decide to embrace happiness even in the middle of imperfections, then you begin to live fully. Happiness is not something that falls into your hands one day. It is something you create through the choices you make in each moment. Think about the mornings when you wake up. You always have a choice. Will you allow the weight of yesterday's mistakes, regrets, or burdens to dictate the way you feel today? Or will you release them and start again? Every new day is like a blank canvas, and your attitude is the brush. If you choose to paint with worry, resentment, and negativity, your day will reflect those colors. But if you choose to paint with gratitude, peace, and joy, then even an ordinary day becomes beautiful. Choosing happiness does not mean ignoring your problems or pretending that pain does not exist. It means refusing to give your problems the power to control your entire state of mind. Even when things go wrong, you can still smile, you can still find moments of laughter, you can still appreciate small blessings. It can be as simple as enjoying the taste of your tea, appreciating the sunrise, or being thankful for the breath flowing in and out of your lungs. These small choices train your mind to focus on what is good instead of drowning in what is bad. With practice, choosing happiness becomes a habit. At first, it may feel forced because your mind is used to complaining or worrying, but just like training a muscle, the more you practice, the stronger it becomes. Over time, you will realize that happiness is not a distant dream waiting for the future. It is something you carry with you right now, in this very moment. And when you live with this understanding, you no longer chase happiness as if it is running away from you. Instead, you realize it was always within your reach, waiting for you to choose it. 2. Worry is a thief that steals your present. Worry is one of the most powerful forces that steals away human joy. It begins silently with a small thought about something that might go wrong tomorrow or a memory of something that happened yesterday, but before long it grows into a storm that occupies your entire mind. You find yourself lying awake at night, replaying old mistakes or imagining future problems that may never even happen. This habit of worrying tricks you into believing that by thinking about problems endlessly, you are protecting yourself. but in reality, all you are doing is weakening yourself. Worry never changes the outcome of tomorrow. It only robs you of the peace you could have felt today. Imagine carrying two heavy bags, one filled with stones from the past, representing your regrets and mistakes, and another filled with stones from the future, representing your fears and uncertainties. Now picture trying to walk forward while carrying both of these burdens at the same time. How heavy would your steps feel? How far could you even go? This is what worry does. It forces you to carry weights that do not belong to the present moment. And because of this, you miss the gift of the present, which is the only time you truly own. Buddhism teaches that clinging to the past or the future is one of the main causes of suffering. The past no longer exists, except as a memory in your mind, and the future has not yet arrived, except as a possibility. Both are illusions if you try to live in them. When you let your mind constantly wander between what was and what might be, you abandon the only reality that exists, the here and now. The present moment is the only safe place, the only time in which you can take action, find peace, and feel alive. The Buddha compared the mind to a monkey, always jumping from branch to branch, restless and unsettled. Worry is the same restless monkey. It does not allow you to sit calmly, to breathe, to simply exist. But when you bring yourself back to the present moment, when you take a mindful breath and remind yourself, I am here, I am alive, I am safe in this moment, you weaken the monkey's grip on your mind. Worry loses its power because it cannot exist when you are fully grounded in the now. Think about the times you were so deeply engaged in something simple, like listening to music, walking in nature, or talking with a loved one, that you forgot your troubles for a while. In those moments, worry disappeared because your mind was fully anchored in the present. That is the secret. Worry thrives only when you let your mind wander away. When you live with awareness, when you bring your attention back to this breath, this step, this action, you discover peace that was hidden underneath all along. Worrying may feel natural because the mind is trained to protect itself by imagining dangers, but just because something feels natural does not mean it is helpful. The practice of Buddhism is to retrain the mind, to guide it back from the endless maze of what-ifs into the calm ground of what is. Every time you resist the pull of worry and focus on the present, you are taking back your power. You are telling worry, you cannot control me anymore, and with that choice, even in the middle of uncertainty, happiness becomes possible. 3. Accept what you cannot control. One of the deepest sources of human suffering is our constant battle with reality. We want the world to move according to our desires. We want people to behave the way we expect, and we want life to follow the plan we have carefully created in our minds. But reality does not always bend to our wishes. People disappoint us, situations shift unexpectedly, and life unfolds in ways we never predicted. The more we resist these truths, the more exhausted and unhappy we become. It is like trying to push against the tide of the ocean. You can fight with all your strength, but in the end, the waves will always be stronger. Buddhism teaches that peace comes not from controlling everything, but from learning to accept what cannot be controlled. Acceptance is not weakness, nor is it about giving up. It is about understanding where your power ends and where life takes over. Imagine standing in the rain. You cannot stop the clouds from pouring, but you can open an umbrella, you can wear a coat, or you can even choose to dance in the downpour. The rain is not in your control, but your response always is. The same is true for the difficulties in life. You cannot prevent storms from coming, but you can decide how you will face them. Most people waste enormous energy trying to control the uncontrollable. They argue endlessly, they hold grudges, they stress over things they cannot change. This drains not only their strength, but also their joy. Acceptance frees you from this trap. It allows you to conserve your energy for the things you can change. your attitude, your choices, your actions, and your perspective. Instead of being consumed by frustration over what you cannot change, you redirect your focus toward what you can do in this moment to create peace. The Buddha often compared life to a river, flowing steadily forward. You cannot freeze the river, you cannot stop its movement, and you cannot force it to flow backward. All you can do is learn how to flow with it, to adapt, and to move with grace. When you resist the current, you suffer. When you surrender to it with awareness, you discover peace. Acceptance is the practice of flowing with the river of life instead of exhausting yourself trying to fight against it. Think about how much lighter your heart would feel if you let go of the need to control others. You cannot force people to love you the way you want, but you can choose to love yourself fully. You cannot prevent every difficulty, but you can learn patience, resilience, and strength. You cannot control the words others speak, but you can control whether you let those words poison your peace. This understanding transforms your life because you no longer feel like a victim of circumstances. You become the master of your responses. Acceptance also brings freedom from unnecessary suffering. Often, it is not the pain itself that destroys us, but the resistance to it. For example, loss is painful, but refusing to accept loss multiplies the pain. Failure is difficult, but refusing to accept failure prevents growth. When you accept reality as it is, you open the door to healing, learning, and moving forward. When you resist reality, you stay stuck in suffering. True acceptance is not resignation. It is wisdom. It is the strength to say, I may not control what happens, but I can always control how I respond. With this mindset, life stops being an endless fight and becomes a journey of balance. You stop demanding perfection from the world and instead learn to move gracefully within its imperfections. And in that space, happiness begins to bloom, not because everything is perfect, but because you no longer need it to be. 4. Gratitude transforms struggle into strength. When life becomes difficult, the human mind naturally turns toward what is missing, what has gone wrong, or what feels unfair. You look at the empty spaces instead of the blessings that remain, and this focus makes the pain heavier than it needs to be. It is natural to do this because the mind is wired to notice problems in order to protect itself. But Buddhism teaches us that suffering grows not only from the challenges themselves, but from the way we choose to look at them. Gratitude is the medicine that changes your perspective. It does not erase difficulties, but it transforms the way you carry them, turning heavy burdens into lessons and struggles into stepping stones. Gratitude is the art of shifting your focus from what you lack to what you already have. When something painful happens, you can either fix your gaze only on the loss, or you can widen your vision to see the blessings that still surround you. For example, you may lose an opportunity, but you can still be grateful for the skills you gained in the process. You may face sickness, but you can still be thankful for the love and care of those who stand by you. You may walk through disappointment, but you can still honor the strength that kept you moving forward. Gratitude does not deny hardship. It reveals that even in the darkest night, there are stars shining above if you are willing to look up. The Buddha taught that the mind becomes what it practices. If you practice complaining, you become skilled at seeing only the negative. If you practice gratitude, your eyes begin to notice the positive, even when it hides beneath the surface. Gratitude trains the heart to open in all seasons, not only when life is comfortable. It teaches you to see beauty in ordinary things, the warmth of sunlight on your face, the laughter of a child, the simple gift of breath that fills your lungs without asking for payment. These may seem small, but when you pay attention to them with awareness, they become powerful reminders that life, even in its struggles, is still a blessing. When hardship arrives, gratitude is what prevents bitterness from taking root. Without it, Pain easily transforms into resentment, jealousy, or hopelessness. But with it, the same pain can shape you into someone wiser, stronger, and more compassionate. Gratitude shifts your story from "life is against me" to "life is teaching me." Instead of drowning in sorrow, you begin to rise with resilience because you recognize that your struggle is not the end. It is part of your growth. Think about a person who has lost almost everything, yet still smiles and finds reasons to thank life. Their peace does not come from having a perfect situation, but from training their mind to see blessings where others see only despair. That is the power of gratitude. It builds an inner strength that no circumstance can shake. When you say thank you, even in times of pain, you break the chain of negativity and open the door to hope. Gratitude is also contagious. When you live with a grateful heart, your energy changes and people around you feel it. You inspire others to look at their own lives differently. You remind them that no matter how heavy life becomes, there are always things worth appreciating. Gratitude not only transforms your own struggle into strength, it spreads light to others who walk through their own darkness. So the next time life feels unfair, pause and ask yourself, what can I still be grateful for in this moment? It may be something as small as the comfort of silence, the chance to learn a lesson, or the simple truth that you are still alive with another opportunity to grow. Gratitude does not erase suffering, but it softens it, carries it, and transforms it. With gratitude, every struggle becomes less of a curse and more of a teacher, and from that teacher you gain strength that lasts far longer than the hardship itself. 5. Train your mind like a muscle. Happiness is not something that appears by chance, nor is it a gift that life suddenly drops into your hands. It is something you must build, shape, and strengthen, just like a muscle. If you want your body to grow strong, you do not wait for it to happen on its own. You commit to training, to repetition, to discipline. The same principle applies to the mind. The mind is like a field. If left unattended, weeds of worry, fear, and negativity will quickly grow. But if you cultivate it daily with discipline, mindfulness, and awareness, it becomes fertile ground where peace and happiness can thrive. Many people believe that their moods control them, that emotions come and go like storms, and there is nothing they can do. But Buddhism teaches us that the mind is not fixed. It can be trained, reshaped, and strengthened with practice. Just as water can carve valleys over time, small, consistent practices shape your mind into one that naturally seeks calm and joy instead of fear and chaos. This does not happen in a single day. Training the mind requires patience, effort, and a willingness to start again each time you stumble. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for this training. When you sit quietly and focus on your breath, you are not escaping life. You are practicing mastery over your thoughts. You notice the restless chatter of the mind, the constant stream of worries, regrets, and distractions. Instead of being carried away by them, you learn to watch them as if they are clouds passing through the sky. You realize that thoughts are not commands. They are simply visitors in your mind. With time, this practice weakens the grip of negativity and builds the strength of calm awareness. Mindfulness is another exercise for the mind. It is not only about sitting still, but about living with attention in everything you do. When you eat, you focus on the taste and the nourishment instead of rushing through it, distracted. When you walk, you feel each step connecting with the earth instead of being lost in thoughts about tomorrow. These small practices may seem simple, but they rewire the brain, training it to stay present instead of wandering into worry or regret. Science now confirms what Buddhism taught centuries ago. The brain can be reshaped through consistent practice. Neural pathways that support stress and anxiety weaken, while those that support peace and clarity grow stronger. Think of it this way. If you constantly practice worry, you will become an expert worrier. If you constantly practice anger, you will become quick to explode. But if you practice gratitude, patience, and calmness, your mind will naturally lean toward those states, even in difficult times. This is why training the mind is so important. You cannot expect happiness to appear when you face challenges if you have not prepared your mind beforehand. Just as a soldier trains before battle and a musician practices before performing, you must train your mind daily to remain steady when life tests you. At first, this training may feel uncomfortable. The mind will resist, pulling you back into old habits of complaining or overthinking. But every time you catch yourself and redirect your thoughts, you are building strength. Every time you pause before reacting, you are building discipline. Every time you choose peace over anger, you are reinforcing a new way of living. Slowly, these small victories add up until happiness is not just a temporary feeling, but a stable foundation within you. The Buddha once said, "Whatever a monk frequently thinks and ponders upon, that will become the inclination of his mind." This means that what you repeat becomes who you are. If you train your mind with mindfulness, presence, and gratitude, then peace will no longer feel like an effort. It will become your natural state. And once happiness is rooted deep within you, no storm outside can easily shake it. 6. See struggles as teachers. When we think about struggle, the first thought that often arises is to escape it, to fight against it, or to wish it never existed. Struggle is uncomfortable, it brings pain, and it makes us question our strength. Yet if you look closely at life, you will realize that some of your greatest growth has not come from moments of ease, but from the very hardships you once prayed would disappear. Struggles are not accidents. They are not signs that life is against you. They are part of the natural flow of existence, placed in your path to awaken something greater inside you. Buddhism teaches us that suffering is not punishment, it is a teacher. And like every great teacher, it arrives with lessons that can transform your life if you are willing to learn from them. Think about the moments in your life when you felt broken, when nothing seemed to go right, and when you wondered if you would ever make it through. At that time, it may have felt like the end of everything. Yet when you look back now, you may notice that those very experiences shaped you into who you are today. Perhaps a failure taught you humility, a loss taught you the depth of love, or a challenge taught you patience. This is the hidden nature of struggle. On the surface, it feels like a burden, but beneath, it carries wisdom that cannot be learned in comfort. The Buddha once said, "The lotus flower blooms most beautifully from the deepest and thickest mud." This teaching is a reminder that the most beautiful growth often comes from the most difficult environments. Just as the lotus cannot bloom without the mud, your spirit cannot rise to its full strength without being tested by struggle. If life were always easy, you would never discover the depth of your resilience or the vastness of your potential. Comfort rarely shapes character, struggle does. When hardship comes, most people ask the question, "Why me?" This question traps the mind in self-pity, anger, or blame. But a more powerful question is, what is this teaching me? This shift in perspective is the difference between being broken by struggle and being transformed by it. Every difficulty holds a hidden lesson, but you can only discover it if you are willing to stop resisting and start listening. For example, when someone betrays you instead of drowning in bitterness, you might learn the importance of discernment and self-respect. When you face financial hardship, instead of collapsing in despair, you might learn creativity, discipline, and the value of simplicity. When you experience rejection, instead of believing you are unworthy, you might learn that rejection is often redirection towards something better. Buddhist philosophy sees suffering as a path to awakening. Pain shakes us out of our illusions and forces us to see life more clearly. It strips away arrogance, comfort, and false attachments, leaving behind the essence of who we really are. Without struggle, many of us would continue living on the surface of life, chasing shallow goals and ignoring the deeper truths of existence. But struggle has a way of pulling us down into the depths of our soul, where we confront our fears, our attachments, and our illusions. In this way, struggle is not your enemy, it is your guide. Consider the story of a young tree. If a tree grows in a place where there is no wind, where conditions are always gentle, its roots remain weak. The moment a storm arrives, the tree is easily torn apart. But if a tree grows where winds are strong and conditions are harsh, it is forced to dig its roots deeper into the soil. Those struggles make the tree unshakable. Human beings are no different. Without struggles, we remain shallow and fragile, easily broken by life's storms. But with struggles, our roots grow deeper. We develop resilience, patience, and wisdom that no comfort could have given us. One of the greatest lessons struggle teaches is impermanence. When we go through suffering, we often feel as though it will last forever. But Buddhism teaches that everything in life is temporary. Pain rises, but it also falls. Seasons of difficulty come, but they also go. Struggles remind us of this truth. They teach us to let go, to stop clinging, and to trust that even the darkest night eventually gives way to morning. This lesson alone can free you from despair, because when you truly understand impermanence, you stop believing that your current struggle defines your entire existence. You realize it is only a passing moment in the vast river of life. Struggles also teach compassion. When you have never suffered, it is easy to look at the pain of others with judgment or indifference. But when you yourself have walked through hardship, your heart opens. You begin to understand the silent battles people face, and you treat them with kindness. Your struggle becomes the bridge that connects you to others, reminding you that pain is part of being human, and compassion is the medicine we can all offer one another. In this way, your struggles not only teach you about yourself, but they make you a source of light and comfort for others. It is also important to understand that struggles refine your perspective. When everything is taken from you, you learn to appreciate even the smallest blessings. A person who has gone hungry will forever treasure food. A person who has been lonely will cherish true friendship. A person who has lost will value every moment of presence. Without struggle, we take life for granted. With struggle, we begin to see beauty in the ordinary and meaning in the simple. Yet, despite all these lessons, many people still run from struggle. They avoid challenges, they hide from difficulties, and they resent hardship when it arrives. But avoidance only weakens the spirit. When you avoid struggle, you deny yourself the very training that would have made you stronger. Just as a sword must pass through fire to be sharpened, the soul must pass through struggle to be refined. This does not mean you should seek suffering, but when it comes, do not see it as a curse. See it as a forge, shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more unshakable than before. The practice of seeing struggles as teachers does not mean ignoring your pain or pretending everything is fine. It means embracing reality fully and choosing to extract wisdom from it. Cry if you must, rest if you must, but do not let your suffering go to waste. Let it teach you. Let it guide you. Let it carve strength into your heart that will remain long after the pain has faded. In the end, the struggles you face are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to reveal you. They are mirrors showing you where you need to grow, torches lighting the path toward deeper wisdom, and bridges leading you to greater resilience. The Buddha's path was not free of struggle. In fact, it was through his confrontation with suffering that he reached enlightenment. In the same way, your struggles may be the very doors through which you step into a higher, freer version of yourself. So the next time hardship visits you, instead of saying, "Why me?" try saying, "Teach me." Instead of resisting, lean into the lesson. Instead of drowning in self-pity, rise with awareness. Your struggles are not here to break you, they are here to awaken you. And once you begin to see them as teachers, you will no longer fear them. You will walk through them with courage, knowing that each difficulty is not the end of your story, but the beginning of a stronger chapter. 7. Happiness is an inside job. For most of our lives, we are taught to look outside ourselves for happiness. From a young age, we are told that once we achieve success, once we find love, once we gather wealth, or once we reach some perfect point in the future, then, and only then, will happiness arrive. This way of thinking keeps us chasing endlessly, running from one goal to the next, believing that happiness is always just one step away. But Buddhism offers a different truth, a liberating truth. Happiness does not come from the outside. It comes from within. Happiness is not a gift that someone else can hand you, nor is it a prize that the world awards you for your achievements. It is a state of being that you cultivate, protect, and nurture inside yourself, regardless of what is happening around you. Think for a moment about people who seem to have everything: wealth, beauty, recognition, and comfort, yet still feel empty, restless, or unsatisfied. On the other hand, there are those who appear to have very little, who live with modest means, and yet radiate a deep peace and joy that cannot be shaken. The difference is not in their circumstances, but in where their happiness comes from. If your happiness is tied to external things, then it will always be fragile. Money can be lost, relationships can change, health can decline, and recognition can fade. But if your happiness is rooted within yourself, in your own heart and mind, then nothing outside of you can easily destroy it. The Buddha once said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." This teaching reminds us that true freedom and true happiness are responsibilities we must take upon ourselves. If you are waiting for someone else to make you happy, you will always be at the mercy of others. If you are waiting for perfect conditions to arrive, you will wait your entire life. But the moment you take ownership of your happiness, the moment you recognize that it is an inside job, you step into a power that cannot be taken away from you. Happiness is born from the way you choose to see life. Two people can face the same challenge. One falls into despair, the other finds meaning and growth. The external event is the same, but their internal response is different. This shows us that happiness does not depend on what happens to you, but on how you interpret it, how you respond, and what you choose to focus on. You cannot control the storms that arrive, but you can always control the state of your mind. A calm mind is like a strong boat. It will carry you through even the roughest waters. So how do we build happiness from within? One of the first steps is learning to release attachment. Much of our suffering comes from clinging too tightly to things outside of us, possessions, people, recognition, or outcomes. When these things are present, we feel joy. When they are gone, we fall into despair. But Buddhism teaches impermanence. Everything in this world is temporary. If you cling too tightly to what is temporary, you will constantly be thrown into cycles of joy and sorrow. The way to lasting happiness is to loosen your grip, to appreciate without clinging, to love without controlling, and to enjoy without depending. In this way, happiness becomes steady, because it no longer depends on what is outside, but on your own inner balance. Another step is cultivating self-awareness. The mind often runs wild, pulled in every direction by desires, fears, and habits. You may think you are in control, but often your thoughts and emotions control you. By practicing mindfulness, by sitting quietly and observing your breath, your feelings, and your thoughts, you begin to see yourself more clearly. You realize that you are not your fears, not your worries, not even your passing emotions. You are the awareness behind them. This awareness is calm, unshaken, and free. The more you rest in this awareness, the less power external events have over you. You begin to experience happiness not as a fleeting emotion, but as a steady state of being. Happiness also grows when you align your life with values rather than appearances. Many people chase things that look good to the world but feel empty inside. They pursue wealth, status, or attention, believing these will bring fulfillment. Yet when they achieve them, they often feel a strange hollowness. Why? Because they were living for the eyes of others instead of the truth of their own soul. Real happiness comes when your actions match your deepest values, when you live with integrity, when you are kind, when you help others, when you follow a path that feels meaningful to you. This kind of happiness cannot be bought or stolen. It arises from within, and it strengthens you with every choice you make. Consider also how happiness multiplies when you let go of comparison. One of the greatest thieves of inner peace is measuring your life against others. When you constantly compare, you are handing your happiness over to someone else's journey. Buddhism teaches that each person's path is unique, like a river flowing in its own direction. You cannot walk another's path, nor should you. When you focus on your own growth, your own progress, and your own blessings, you stop being distracted by what others have and begin to appreciate the richness of your own life. In this way, your happiness becomes independent, no longer chained to the endless race of comparison. A powerful truth about happiness is that it grows when shared. Even though happiness is an inside job, it is not meant to be kept locked away. When you nurture peace within yourself, it naturally overflows into the world around you. A calm and joyful person uplifts others without even trying. Their energy spreads like sunlight, warming all it touches. This is why Buddhism emphasizes compassion and loving kindness. By giving to others, by offering kindness and support, you strengthen your own happiness. You realize that joy is not reduced when shared, it is multiplied. It is also essential to understand that happiness from within is not the same as constant excitement or pleasure. Many people confuse happiness with stimulation, entertainment, thrills, or temporary highs. These things are fleeting, and when they fade, they often leave emptiness behind. True inner happiness is quieter, deeper, and more enduring. It is the calm contentment of knowing that even if nothing changes outside, you are still at peace inside. It is the ability to sit alone and feel whole, the ability to face challenges without losing yourself, and the ability to smile simply because you are alive. This happiness does not depend on conditions. It depends on awareness, gratitude, and acceptance. Let us imagine two individuals. The first depends on external things for happiness. When praised, they feel joy. When criticized, they feel pain. When circumstances are good, they feel hopeful. When things fall apart, they feel crushed. Their happiness rises and falls like a fragile boat tossed by waves. The second has cultivated happiness from within. They appreciate good times, but they are not enslaved by them. When difficulties arrive, they feel the pain but remain anchored in peace. Their joy is steady because it is not built on sand, but on the solid ground of inner strength. Which person do you wish to be? The answer lies in whether you choose to seek happiness outside or build it within. The journey to inner happiness is not easy, but it is worth everything. It requires discipline, mindfulness, and patience. It asks you to stop chasing illusions and to start cultivating truth. It asks you to take responsibility for your own state of mind instead of blaming the world. And most importantly, it reminds you that happiness is already inside you. It has always been there, waiting beneath the noise of worry, fear, and desire. When you quiet the mind, when you practice acceptance, gratitude, and compassion, that inner light begins to shine again. In the end, happiness is not something you need to find. It is something you need to uncover. Like the sun hidden behind clouds, your happiness is already present. The clouds may come and go, but the sun remains. Once you realize that happiness is an inside job, you stop waiting for life to be perfect and start living fully in the moment. You stop chasing and start being. And in that being, in that awareness, you discover a joy that no loss can steal, no storm can shake, and no outside force can destroy. So remember, the world can offer pleasures, but true happiness is your responsibility. It lives inside you, in your choices, in your awareness, in your perspective. Protect it, nurture it, and let it grow. Because once happiness is rooted within, you become unshakable. Life may change, people may come and go, seasons may rise and fall, but your inner joy will remain, shining like a steady flame, guiding you through every chapter of your journey. 8. The silent power of letting go. One of the greatest illusions we carry through life is the belief that holding on makes us stronger, that clinging tightly to people, things, memories, or expectations will keep us safe and complete. We grip onto relationships long after they have broken. We cling to possessions as if they can give us identity. We replay past mistakes over and over in our minds as if they could change, and we hold tightly to imagined futures that may never arrive. This constant grasping, this endless attachment, creates a life of tension, fear, and exhaustion. Buddhism teaches that one of the deepest truths of happiness lies in the art of letting go. To let go is not weakness, it is not carelessness, and it is not indifference. To let go is to release the chains that bind your spirit, to free your mind from the weight of what it was never meant to carry, and to allow life to flow as it was always meant to. Think about water for a moment. When you hold water tightly in your fist, it slips away through your fingers. But when you open your palm and allow it to rest gently, it stays. This is the same with life. The more tightly you cling, the more you lose. The more gently you allow, the more peace you find. We cling because we fear loss, but ironically, the act of clinging creates the very suffering we are trying to avoid. If you hold onto the past with bitterness, you lose the ability to experience the present with joy. If you cling to expectations about the future, you lose the ability to flow with what life actually offers you. Letting go is not losing. It is choosing freedom over suffering. The Buddha spoke of attachment as the root of suffering. He taught that everything in this world is impermanent. Every object will eventually fade, every relationship will eventually change, and every moment will eventually pass. To deny this truth is to set yourself up for endless disappointment, but to accept it is to step into peace. Imagine carrying a rope tied to a heavy stone, dragging it everywhere you go. That rope is your attachment, your refusal to release. The stone is your suffering, your burden. The moment you let go of the rope, you are free. The stone may still exist, but it no longer weighs you down. This is the silent power of letting go. Letting go does not mean you stop caring. It does not mean you detach from love or compassion. It means you stop trying to control what is beyond you. It means you allow people to be who they are instead of forcing them into your expectations. It means you accept that some things are not meant to stay, some doors are not meant to open, and some chapters are not meant to last forever. To let go is to respect the flow of life rather than fight against it. There are different levels of letting go. The first is letting go of the past. Many people are prisoners of yesterday. They carry regret like chains, replaying old mistakes or wishing things had been different. But the past is gone. It exists only in your memory. You cannot change it, but you can change how you relate to it. Letting go of the past means learning the lessons it offered, taking the wisdom it gave you, and then releasing the pain so you can walk forward unburdened. The second level is letting go of expectations. Expectations are silent contracts you create with life, with others, and with yourself. You imagine how things should be, how people should treat you, how events should unfold. When reality does not match these expectations, suffering appears. This is not because reality is cruel, but because your mind refused to accept it as it is. Letting go of expectations means meeting life openly without demanding that it conform to your script. It means replacing "this should not be happening" with "this is happening. How can I respond with wisdom?" The third level is letting go of control. Most suffering comes from trying to control what is uncontrollable. You cannot control the weather, the economy, or the actions of other people. You cannot stop time, you cannot prevent change, and you cannot control every outcome, but you can always control your response. Letting go of control means shifting your focus from the external to the internal, from what you cannot change to what you can. It means releasing the exhausting attempt to hold the world in your hands and instead mastering the only thing you truly own, yourself. There is also the level of letting go of identity. Many of us cling tightly to the roles we play, our job titles, our reputation, our status, our possessions, our image. We build walls of ego, believing that these things define us, but when they change, as they inevitably will, we feel lost and broken. Buddhism teaches that the self is not fixed. It is fluid, ever-changing. To cling to a rigid identity is to deny your own growth. Letting go of identity means recognizing that you are not your job, not your possessions, not even the stories you tell about yourself. You are deeper than all of these. You are the awareness behind them. Letting go also requires trust. It asks you to believe that even if you release, you will not collapse. Many people resist letting go because they believe that if they stop controlling, everything will fall apart. But look at nature. The trees let go of their leaves each autumn, and yet they bloom again in spring. The river lets go of each drop of water, yet it never runs dry. Life is built on cycles of letting go and renewal. Trusting this truth allows you to release with courage. One of the most powerful practices of letting go is forgiveness. To forgive is not to say that what someone did was right. It is not to erase the memory or ignore the pain. To forgive is to release the hold that anger and resentment have on your heart. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. You harm yourself far more than anyone else. Forgiveness is letting go of the rope, choosing peace for yourself, rather than carrying bitterness that burns your spirit. Letting go also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the master of the universe, that you cannot bend life entirely to your will. And that is not a weakness, it is a wisdom. When you let go, you become lighter. You move with the flow of life rather than exhausting yourself fighting against it. You discover that peace is not found in controlling, but in releasing. Consider the story of a monk who carried a heavy bowl of water across a long path. Each step was filled with tension because he feared spilling even a drop. Finally, his teacher said, "Why do you carry it this way? If you relax your grip and let it flow naturally, you will walk more freely." The monk realized that his fear of losing the water was making his journey unbearable. When he loosened his grip, the bowl still remained full and his steps became lighter. In the same way, letting go allows you to live with less fear and more freedom. The silent power of letting go is that it transforms suffering into peace without changing external circumstances. The world remains the same, but you are no longer chained to it. The past may still exist, but it no longer controls you. People may still act as they do, but their behavior no longer dictates your happiness. The future may still be uncertain, but uncertainty no longer terrifies you. You become free, not because life has changed, but because you have. When you learn the art of letting go, you step into a new kind of strength, a strength that is not loud or forceful, but steady and unshakable. You no longer waste your energy gripping what was never yours to hold. Instead, you use that energy to grow, to create, to love, and to live fully in the present. Letting go is not the end. It is the beginning of a lighter, freer, and more joyful life. So ask yourself, what are you still holding on to that is weighing you down? Is it anger, regret, expectations, or fear? Whatever it is, imagine placing it in your hands and opening your palms to release it. Feel the lightness as it leaves you. In that moment, you will understand the wisdom of letting go. Because in letting go, you do not lose, you gain. You gain peace, freedom, and the ability to live with an open heart. And in that open heart, true happiness blooms. 9. Peace is found in simplicity. In today's world, life often feels overwhelming. Every direction you turn, there are messages telling you that you need more to be happy, more possessions, more recognition, more followers, more success, more comfort. The pace is fast, the noise is constant, and the pressure to keep up never stops. In this endless chase, the heart grows restless, the mind grows tired, and the soul grows disconnected. You begin to feel as though happiness is always out of reach, just one step further, waiting beyond the next achievement or the next purchase. Yet Buddhism teaches something profoundly different. Peace is not found in having more, but in needing less. True happiness comes from simplicity. Simplicity is not poverty, and it is not the rejection of life's joys. It is the wisdom of knowing what truly matters and letting go of what does not. It is the ability to distinguish between what nourishes your soul and what only clutters your life. Imagine carrying a bag on a long journey. If you keep filling it with unnecessary things, it becomes so heavy that you can barely walk. But if you carry only what you truly need, your steps are lighter, your journey is freer, and you are able to enjoy the path. Life is the same. The more you accumulate, possessions, desires, comparisons, and expectations, the heavier you become. The more you simplify, the lighter and freer your spirit feels. The Buddha himself lived a life of simplicity. Born into wealth and privilege, he eventually left it all behind when he realized that luxury did not bring lasting peace. Instead, he discovered that peace arises from the uncluttered mind, from a life focused not on excess but on balance, gratitude, and clarity. His example reminds us that no matter how much the world offers, if your heart is restless, you will never be satisfied. And no matter how little you have, if your heart is content, you already possess everything you need. Simplicity begins with the mind. A cluttered mind cannot find peace. When you are constantly thinking about the past, worrying about the future, or comparing yourself with others, you lose the ability to enjoy the present. The practice of mindfulness is, in essence, the practice of simplicity. It brings your attention back to one thing at a time, your breath, your step, your action. By simplifying your focus, you quiet the noise of 1,000 worries and return to the calm of this single moment. And in that calm, happiness naturally arises. Simplicity also means releasing attachment to possessions. In modern society, possessions are often confused with identity. People believe that what they own defines who they are. Yet the more you cling to possessions, the more they end up owning you. You worry about losing them, about maintaining them, about protecting them. The joy they once brought fades quickly, leaving behind only the weight of responsibility. Buddhism reminds us of impermanence. Everything we own will one day break, fade, or pass to someone else. When you understand this, you begin to see possessions for what they truly are, useful tools, not sources of identity. To live simply is not to reject all things, but to use what you need with gratitude and let go of the rest. Simplicity is also found in relationships. Many people complicate their lives by surrounding themselves with those who drain their energy, feed their negativity, or keep them entangled in unnecessary drama. To live simply is to choose relationships with care, to keep people close who bring peace, kindness, and authenticity, and to distance yourself from those who do not. It is not about shutting others out, but about creating space for genuine connection rather than endless distraction. There is also the simplicity of desires. The human heart is endlessly hungry when it is not trained. If you satisfy one desire, another quickly takes its place. This cycle never ends because desire multiplies with feeding. The Buddha compared desire to drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Simplicity breaks this cycle. It teaches you to be content with what you have instead of endlessly chasing what you do not. It does not mean you cannot have goals or ambitions, but it means you are not enslaved by them. You pursue them with balance, knowing that your happiness does not depend on their outcome. Consider how much lighter life feels when you practice simplicity. Instead of cluttering your days with endless tasks, you focus on what truly matters. Instead of filling your home with objects that gather dust, you keep only what brings you joy or serves a purpose. Instead of running after every desire, you slow down and appreciate the blessings already in front of you. In simplicity, you create space. Space for peace, space for gratitude, and space for happiness. Simplicity also brings freedom from comparison. Much suffering today comes from looking at what others have and believing that you need the same to be fulfilled. But simplicity teaches you to honor your own path without measuring it against another's. It reminds you that happiness is not about having what others have, it is about appreciating what you have been given. This shift in focus transforms envy into gratitude, restlessness into contentment, and comparison into peace. Living simply is not always easy in a world that glorifies excess. You will be tempted to chase, to accumulate, to compete. But each time you pause and choose simplicity, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that happiness does not live in endless consumption, but in mindful presence. You discover joy in a quiet morning, in a meal shared with loved ones, in the sound of the wind, in the beauty of silence. These small things, overlooked when life is cluttered, become treasures when life is simple. One of the most profound aspects of simplicity is that it reveals truth. When life is full of noise, distractions, and excess, it is easy to lose sight of who you really are. But when you simplify, when you strip away the unnecessary, what remains is clarity. You see your values more clearly, you hear your inner voice more strongly, you recognize what truly nourishes you, and you let go of what does not. In this clarity, you find yourself. Simplicity is also deeply connected to compassion. When you live simply, you are less consumed by your own endless wants and more aware of the needs of others. You realize that peace is not in taking more, but in sharing more. When your heart is uncluttered, generosity flows naturally. You give not out of guilt, but out of genuine care, because you have discovered that true wealth lies not in accumulation, but in kindness. The beauty of simplicity is that it is available to everyone. You do not need to be wealthy, powerful, or special to live simply. It does not depend on circumstances, it depends on perspective. It begins with a single choice: to stop complicating life with unnecessary desires and to start appreciating what is already here. From that choice, peace begins to grow. Imagine yourself sitting quietly under a tree with no distractions, no noise, no rush. Just you, your breath, and the present moment. In that simplicity, there is peace. In that peace, there is happiness. This is the essence of the lesson. Happiness is not hidden in the extraordinary. It is found in the ordinary once you strip away the clutter. So ask yourself, what in your life can you simplify today? What possessions, habits, or thoughts are weighing you down? What expectations or comparisons can you release? Each step toward simplicity is a step toward freedom. And with each step, you will discover that peace is not far away. It has been waiting inside you all along, hidden beneath the layers of unnecessary complexity. Simplicity is not about having less life. It is about having more life in what you already have. It is about living with intention, with clarity, and with gratitude. It is about trading the restless hunger of more for the deep contentment of enough. And when you live this way, you discover a happiness that is quiet but unshakable, humble but powerful, simple but profound. 10. The strength of inner stillness. In a world filled with constant noise, movement, and distraction, stillness often feels strange. Silence can feel uncomfortable, and slowing down can feel almost impossible. We are so used to rushing, to reacting, to chasing, to filling every moment with something, screens, tasks, conversations, or thoughts, that when stillness appears, many of us immediately try to escape it. Yet within Buddhism lies a profound teaching. True strength is not found in endless activity, but in the depth of inner stillness. Stillness is not emptiness, it is not laziness, and it is not weakness. Stillness is power. It is the quiet ground upon which clarity grows, the silent space in which wisdom awakens, and the calm center from which happiness naturally arises. Most people think strength is about force, speaking louder, moving faster, achieving more. But what good is force if the mind is restless, if the heart is unstable, if the soul is lost in chaos? Real strength is the ability to remain calm when the world shakes, to hold peace in your heart when storms surround you, and to act with clarity when others are blinded by emotion. This strength does not come from outside. It is cultivated in the silent depths of your own being. The Buddha often compared the mind to a lake. When the water is stirred and agitated, you cannot see clearly into its depths. But when the water becomes still, its surface reflects everything with clarity. In the same way, when your mind is restless, clouded with worry, anger, or desire, you cannot see life as it truly is. Your thoughts are distorted, your judgments are clouded, and your actions are reactive rather than wise. But when your mind becomes still, when you learn to rest in inner silence, life reflects itself clearly. You see things as they are, not as your fears or illusions paint them. In this clarity, you find strength. Stillness is not the absence of challenges. It is the presence of calm in the midst of them. Think of a great tree standing in a storm. The wind howls, the rain pours, and the branches shake violently. But deep beneath the surface, the roots are still. They anchor the tree, keeping it upright and unbroken. Your inner stillness is like those roots. When cultivated, it keeps you grounded through the storms of life. Without it, you are easily swayed, thrown around by every difficulty, every criticism, every fear. With it, you remain steady, able to bend without breaking. Cultivating inner stillness begins with awareness. You cannot be still if you are constantly running from yourself. Many people avoid silence because they fear what they might find within, their regrets, their pain, their unresolved emotions. But facing yourself is the first step to stillness. Sit quietly, breathe, and allow your thoughts to rise and fall without chasing them. At first, the mind will resist. It will jump from memory to worry, from desire to distraction. But slowly, with practice, it begins to calm. The storm of thoughts softens, and in the space between them, stillness begins to emerge. This stillness is not just a practice for meditation, it is a way of living. You can carry stillness into your daily life by slowing down and paying attention. When you eat, eat slowly, tasting each bite. When you walk, walk with awareness of each step. When you listen to someone, listen fully, without planning your reply or judging their words. Each of these acts is a seed of stillness. The The more seeds you plant, the stronger your inner calm grows. Stillness also gives you mastery over emotions. Most people are controlled by their feelings. They get angry and lash out. They feel fear and freeze. They feel desire and chase blindly. But when you have stillness, you create space between emotion and reaction. You feel the anger rising, but you do not let it rule you. You feel the fear creeping in, but you do not let it paralyze you. You feel desire stirring, but you do not let it drag you away. This space, the pause created by stillness, is where wisdom lives. It is in that pause that you can choose how to respond rather than react blindly. One of the greatest benefits of stillness is clarity. When the mind is noisy, decisions feel impossible. You jump between options, second-guess yourself, and feel overwhelmed. But when the mind is still, clarity arises naturally. You begin to sense what is right without forcing it. You hear the quiet voice of your inner wisdom, which is often drowned out by the noise of constant thinking. Many of life's answers do not come from more effort, but from more stillness. When you stop pushing, the truth often emerges on its own. Stillness also heals. Stress, worry, and endless activity drain not only the mind but the body as well. When you rest in stillness, your body breathes, your heart rate slows, and your nervous system relaxes. You give yourself the space to recover, to restore balance, and to reconnect with yourself. This is why many people find deep peace in meditation, prayer, or simply sitting quietly in nature. The silence itself becomes medicine. It is important to understand that stillness does not mean withdrawal from life. You do not need to abandon responsibilities, isolate yourself, or stop striving for meaningful goals. Rather, stillness is the foundation upon which all your actions rest. It allows you to move through life with balance rather than burnout, with clarity rather than confusion, with peace rather than panic. It is the center from which effective action flows. A calm mind is not passive, it is powerful. It sees clearly, chooses wisely, and acts decisively. There is a story of a warrior who sought guidance from a wise monk before going into battle. The monk handed him a bowl of water and said, "Shake it." The warrior shook it until the water rippled violently. "Now look," said the monk. "Can you see your reflection clearly?" The warrior shook his head. Then the monk said, "Now let it rest." Slowly, the water calmed, and the warrior could see his face clearly. The monk said, "Your mind is the same. When restless, it cannot reflect truth. But when still, everything becomes clear." The warrior understood and entered the battle not with rage, but with calm strength. This is the gift of stillness. It gives you the power to see and act clearly, even when life is chaotic. In daily life, cultivating stillness requires discipline. It means choosing silence when tempted by constant noise. It means pausing to breathe when emotions rise. It means creating moments of quiet in your day, even if only for a few minutes. Over time, these small practices accumulate, and your inner stillness becomes unshakable. You begin to carry peace with you wherever you go, like a steady flame that no wind can extinguish. The paradox of stillness is that the more you embrace it, the more alive you feel. Many people believe that slowing down means missing out. But in truth, slowing down allows you to fully experience life. When you are still, you notice the beauty of a sunrise, the warmth of a smile, the sound of laughter, the rhythm of your breath. Life becomes richer, not poorer, when experienced from a place of calm presence. Stillness also prepares you for the greatest challenges of life. Loss, disappointment, and uncertainty are inevitable, but with stillness, you can face them with grace. Instead of being swept away by grief or fear, you remain anchored. You may bend, but you do not break. You may feel pain, but you are not destroyed by it. Inner stillness is what allows you to suffer without collapsing, to love without clinging, to live without being consumed by fear. Ultimately, the strength of inner stillness is the strength to return home to yourself, to stop running from moment to moment, from distraction to distraction, and to simply rest in the awareness of being alive. This is where true happiness arises, not from endless movement, but from the calm recognition that life in this moment is already enough. So ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be still? Not scrolling, not rushing, not planning, just still. In that stillness lies a strength greater than any noise, a peace deeper than any distraction, and a happiness purer than any temporary pleasure. Cultivate it, protect it, and return to it often, for in stillness you will find not only yourself, but the unshakable foundation of a joyful life. 11. Freedom through detachment. One of the deepest causes of human suffering is attachment, the invisible chains we wrap around our hearts and minds. We attach ourselves to people, to possessions, to titles, to ideas, and even to emotions. We believe that without these things, our identity would collapse, and so we cling with desperate force, refusing to let go. But what we do not realize is that this clinging is the very reason we feel restless, fearful, and unsatisfied. We fear losing what we cling to, we suffer when it changes, and we break when it is taken away. Buddhism teaches a profound truth. Real freedom does not come from having more, but from needing less. Real peace is born the moment we loosen the chains of attachment and step into detachment. Now, detachment is often misunderstood. Many people think it means becoming cold, emotionless, or indifferent. But this is not what Buddhism teaches. Detachment is not the rejection of life. It is the liberation of the heart from clinging. It means loving without trying to possess, enjoying without fearing loss, living fully without being enslaved by desire. Detachment allows you to hold life gently, to experience it with gratitude, and to release it when the time comes. In this way, it brings not emptiness, but fullness. For when your happiness is no longer tied to fragile things, it becomes unshakable. Consider how much of your suffering comes from attachment. You love someone deeply, but instead of allowing them to be free, you cling, fearing they may leave. When they disappoint you or change, you feel pain, not because love itself hurts, but because your attachment demanded permanence in a world where nothing is permanent. You work hard to build wealth, but instead of using it wisely, you cling to it, fearing loss. When it decreases, you suffer, not because money has meaning on its own, but because your attachment tied your self-worth to it. You chase success, recognition, or status, but when these fade, as all things do, you feel worthless. Once again, it is not the things themselves, but the attachment to them that creates suffering. The Buddha explained this truth through the concept of impermanence. Everything in life is temporary. People change, relationships shift, possessions decay, and even the body itself ages and weakens. When you cling to what is temporary, you set yourself up for suffering, because eventually it will change. Detachment is the wisdom of accepting impermanence. It is the courage to say, I will love, I will enjoy, I will participate fully in life, but I will not demand that anything last forever. This acceptance transforms suffering into peace. Think of holding sand in your hand. If you clutch it tightly, it slips through your fingers. But if you hold it gently, it stays. Detachment works the same way. When you hold life gently, you experience it fully. When you clutch it with fear and demand, you lose it and suffer in the process. Detachment is also about letting go of false identities. Many of us attach ourselves to the roles we play, our job, our reputation, our titles. We say, I am a doctor, I am a teacher, I am successful, I am respected. These may be true for a time, but they are not who you truly are. When those roles change, as they inevitably will, your sense of self should not collapse. You are not your job, your status, or your possessions. You are the awareness behind all of these. Detachment reminds you to hold lightly even the identity you build, so that when life changes, you do not shatter, you simply adapt and continue forward. Another aspect of detachment is freedom from desire. Desire itself is not evil, but when uncontrolled, it enslaves the mind. You achieve one goal, but almost immediately another desire takes its place. You buy something new, and within weeks the joy fades, replaced by a craving for the next thing. This cycle never ends. Buddhism teaches that unchecked desire is like fire. The more you feed it, the larger it grows, until it consumes you entirely. Detachment is the practice of stepping back from this fire. It does not mean rejecting all desires, but it means not being controlled by them. You can have goals, dreams, and ambitions, but your happiness is not dependent on their fulfillment. When you live this way, you are no longer a prisoner of endless craving. You are free. Detachment also transforms how you relate to emotions. Most people are controlled by their feelings. They cling to happiness, fearing it will end, and they cling to pain, replaying it over and over. But detachment allows you to see emotions as passing clouds. Joy comes, let it come. Pain comes, let it come. Both will pass. You do not need to cling to joy or resist pain. You simply allow them, learn from them, and release them. This does not make you less human, it makes you free. One of the greatest strengths of detachment is that it deepens love. At first, this may sound contradictory. How can detachment make love stronger? But think carefully. When love is full of attachment, it becomes suffocating. You demand from the other person, you try to control them, you fear losing them, and you measure their worth by how much they fulfill your needs. This is not pure love. It is love mixed with clinging. True love is free. It is generous. It is kind, and it does not demand ownership. Detachment allows you to love without chains, to give without fear, and to appreciate without clinging. This kind of love is deeper because it is based not on need, but on genuine care. Detachment also brings courage. Much of our fear comes from attachment, the fear of losing, of failing, of being rejected. But when you loosen your grip, fear begins to fade. If you are not clinging to wealth, you do not fear poverty. If you are not clinging to status, you do not fear criticism. If you are not clinging to permanence, you do not fear change. Detachment does not remove the storms of life, but it removes the fear of them, because you no longer demand that life give you what it cannot, eternal stability. Cultivating detachment is a gradual process. It begins with awareness. Notice where you cling. Notice the things, people, or outcomes you believe you cannot live without. Ask yourself, is this attachment creating peace or suffering? The more you observe, the more you see how much of your pain comes from clinging. The next step is practice. Start small. Practice letting go of little things. A minor irritation, a small possession you no longer need, an expectation that did not happen. Each time you release, you strengthen your ability to detach. Over time, this practice becomes part of who you are. One way to strengthen detachment is through mindfulness meditation. Sit quietly, focus on your breath, and watch your thoughts and emotions as they rise and fall. Do not cling to the pleasant. Do not resist the unpleasant. Simply observe, knowing that everything is passing. This simple practice teaches your mind the art of letting go. It trains you to stop grabbing at every thought, every feeling, every desire, and to rest instead in awareness. Detachment is not about abandoning life, it is about living more freely. When you are no longer chained to possessions, desires, or fears, you begin to experience life with greater joy. You appreciate what comes without demanding it to stay. You accept what leaves without collapsing in despair. You participate fully, but you remain free. This is true strength. Imagine walking through a beautiful garden. If you try to pick every flower, fearing they will disappear, you miss the beauty of the whole garden. But if you simply walk, appreciating each flower as it comes, you experience joy without clinging. Life is that garden. Detachment allows you to enjoy its beauty without turning it into a prison. The ultimate freedom comes not from holding tighter, but from letting go. When you release the chains of attachment, you discover a happiness that is not fragile, a peace that is not shaken by loss, and a strength that no circumstance can take away. This is the gift of detachment. It does not take life away from you. It gives life back to you. So ask yourself, what attachments are keeping you bound? What fears, possessions, or expectations weigh you down? Begin loosening your grip little by little. Learn to love without clinging, to live without craving, to feel without being enslaved. In that space, you will discover freedom, the kind of freedom that cannot be bought, stolen, or destroyed. And in that freedom, you will find true happiness. 12. The path of compassion. If there is one quality that has the power to transform not only your own life, but also the lives of everyone around you, it is compassion. Compassion is more than sympathy, more than kindness, and more than pity. It is the deep recognition of another being's suffering combined with the sincere wish to help alleviate it. It is the ability to see yourself in others, to feel their pain as your own, and to act with love even when it costs you something. In Buddhism, compassion, known as karuna, is not just a virtue, it is a path that leads the heart out of selfishness, out of fear, and into the vast freedom of love that asks for nothing in return. Most people live inside the prison of the self. They are consumed with their own desires, fears, and problems. Their happiness depends only on what happens to them personally. But this self-centered way of living is fragile because when life does not go their way, they collapse. Compassion is the key that unlocks this prison. When you begin to live not only for yourself but for the well-being of others, your happiness becomes deeper and more resilient. You are no longer trapped by the smallness of the ego. You expand into the vastness of humanity. The Buddha taught that compassion is inseparable from wisdom. To see clearly is to understand that all beings seek happiness, and all beings wish to avoid suffering. This simple truth is universal. The rich and the poor, the strong and the weak, the kind and even the cruel, all are driven by the same longing for peace. When you truly understand this, judgment softens, hatred weakens, and compassion naturally arises. You stop asking, why are they like this? And begin to ask, what suffering made them this way? This perspective does not excuse harmful behavior, but it opens the door to understanding, which is the first step to healing. Compassion begins with presence. Too often, people pass by each other's pain without noticing because they are too busy, too distracted, or too caught up in themselves. But compassion asks you to stop, to see, to listen. It may be as simple as noticing the sadness in a friend's eyes, the struggle in a stranger's voice, or the loneliness in someone's silence. When you notice, you are already practicing compassion because you are acknowledging their humanity. Presence itself is healing. It tells another person, you are seen, you are not alone. Compassion also requires courage. To open your heart to the suffering of others is not easy. It means allowing yourself to feel, to be vulnerable, to step into another's pain instead of turning away. Many people avoid compassion because they fear it will overwhelm them. But Buddhism teaches that true compassion does not drain you, it strengthens you. When rooted in wisdom, compassion does not drown in suffering, it transforms it. It teaches you to act with kindness without losing yourself, to give without expecting, and to serve without pride. One of the most profound practices in Buddhism is metta bhavana, or loving kindness meditation. In this practice, you begin by cultivating feelings of love and kindness for yourself. You repeat simple phrases such as, "May I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be free from suffering." Then you extend these wishes to others, first to loved ones, then to neutral people, then even to those you struggle with, and finally to all beings everywhere. This practice trains the heart to expand beyond its usual boundaries. Over time, it reshapes your thoughts, softens your judgments, and opens you to the vast compassion that Buddhism calls boundless. Compassion also changes the way you respond to harm. Without compassion, when someone hurts you, the instinct is to retaliate, to hold grudges, to wish them suffering in return. But compassion teaches you to see their actions as symptoms of their own suffering. This does not mean allowing abuse or excusing injustice, but it means freeing yourself from the cycle of hatred. When you respond to harm with compassion, you break the chain of anger that would otherwise continue. You create space for healing, both for yourself and potentially for the other. Compassion is also practical. It is not only about thoughts and feelings, but about action. It can be as simple as offering a kind word, sharing what you have, listening deeply, or showing patience. Compassion does not always require grand gestures. It is often in the small, consistent acts of love that the greatest healing happens. A smile to a stranger, a meal shared with someone hungry, a hand extended to someone struggling. These are the seeds of compassion that transform lives. Yet compassion is not only outward, it must also turn inward. Many people are harsh with themselves, carrying guilt, shame, or self-criticism that eats away at their peace. True compassion begins with learning to treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. If you cannot forgive yourself, how will you forgive others? If you cannot love yourself, how deeply can you love others? Self-compassion is not selfish. It is the foundation upon which all other compassion rests. When you soften toward yourself, you naturally soften toward the world. The path of compassion also expands your perspective on life. Without compassion, life feels like a competition, you against the world, struggling to take what you can before someone else takes it first. With compassion, life becomes cooperation, you and the world, connected, sharing, supporting. You begin to see that your happiness is linked to the happiness of others. When others suffer, eventually their suffering ripples back to you. When others are lifted, their joy uplifts you as well. In this way, compassion is not only a moral virtue, but also a practical wisdom. Compassion is also deeply connected to joy. At first, this may seem surprising. How can feeling the pain of others lead to joy? But compassion transforms pain into purpose. When you act with compassion, you feel a sense of meaning, of alignment, of connection. You realize that your life is not just about surviving or consuming, it is about contributing. And in that contribution, you feel a joy that is deeper than any pleasure you could buy. This joy is steady because it is rooted in giving rather than getting. The greatest proof of compassion's power is seen in the lives of those who practice it deeply. Think of great teachers, monks, or ordinary people who live with kindness as their guide. They radiate peace, not because their lives are free of struggle, but because compassion gives them strength. They are not hardened by the cruelty of the world, they are softened into love. They show us that compassion is not weakness, it is the highest form of courage. Ultimately, compassion transforms not only how you see others, but also how you see yourself. When you live with compassion, you begin to realize that you are not separate from others. You are connected. Their suffering is your suffering, their joy is your joy. This realization dissolves the illusion of isolation and brings you into the vast truth of interdependence. In this truth, there is peace. So ask yourself, how can I bring more compassion into my life today? Can I forgive someone I have been holding anger against? Can I speak more gently to myself? Can I notice the struggles of those around me and respond with kindness? Each small act of compassion is a step on the path, and the more steps you take, the freer your heart becomes. Compassion is not only something you give, it is something that transforms you. It makes your heart lighter, your mind clearer, and your life more meaningful. It teaches you that happiness is not found in taking, but in giving. And in that giving, you discover the secret of life, that the more love you offer, the more love you feel. The path of compassion is the path of freedom. It frees you from the prison of self, from the chains of hatred, from the burden of resentment. It opens your heart to the vastness of life, to the beauty of connection, to the joy of giving. Walk this path, and you will not only transform yourself, you will transform the world around you. 13. The art of patience. Among the many virtues that guide a meaningful life, patience is one of the most underestimated and misunderstood. In a world that glorifies speed, productivity, and instant results, patience often seems outdated, even weak. We live in an age where everything is designed to be faster: instant communication, instant gratification, instant solutions. We are taught that waiting is wasting and that to slow down is to fall behind. Yet Buddhism reveals a deeper truth. Patience is not weakness, and it is not passivity. Patience is strength. It is the quiet power that allows you to endure life's storms without breaking, to walk steadily on the path of growth without giving up, and to find peace even when nothing seems to go your way. Patience is the art of allowing life to unfold in its natural rhythm. Just as a flower cannot be forced to bloom before its season, just as a seed cannot become a tree overnight, life too requires time, space, and gentle care. Impatience is born from the illusion that you can control time, that you can force results, that you can demand outcomes from a universe that has its own order. When you are impatient, you suffer twice. Once from the challenge itself, and again from your refusal to wait. But when you embrace patience, you release the need to control everything and instead find calm within the unfolding. The Buddha often emphasized patience as essential for spiritual growth. He taught that anger, frustration, and suffering often arise when expectations clash with reality. We want things to happen quickly, and when they do not, we resist, complain, or despair. Patience dissolves this resistance. It teaches you to breathe, to wait, to trust that everything has its time. With patience, you discover that peace does not come from getting what you want immediately, but from aligning yourself with the flow of life. Patience is needed in every part of life. It is needed in relationships. People are not perfect. They misunderstand, they make mistakes, they move at a different pace than you wish. Without patience, relationships break quickly under the weight of anger and disappointment. With patience, you learn to see beyond the moment, to forgive, to give space for growth. A patient heart does not demand perfection, it nurtures progress. Patience is needed in personal growth. Changing habits, healing wounds, building discipline, all of these take time. Many people give up too quickly because they expect transformation overnight. They meditate for a week and feel restless, so they stop. They try to break a bad habit for a month and fail, so they return to old ways. They start learning something new, but because progress feels slow, they abandon it. Impatience is the graveyard of growth. But patience is the soil in which transformation slowly takes root. Just as water shapes stone, not in a single strike, but through steady flow, patience shapes your life through persistence. Patience is also needed in the face of suffering. When pain arrives, illness, loss, failure, the heart naturally cries out for it to end quickly. But many forms of suffering cannot be erased immediately. They must be endured, accepted, and healed over time. Without patience, suffering becomes unbearable, because you are not only carrying the pain itself, but also the frustration of wanting it gone. With patience, you learn to endure with dignity, to breathe through each moment, to trust that healing will come. Patience does not remove pain, but it makes pain bearable. It transforms suffering into a teacher rather than an enemy. The art of patience is also the art of being present. Impatience lives in the future. It is always demanding that the next moment come faster. But patience brings you back to now. It reminds you that this moment, no matter how imperfect, is still life. When you are patient, you stop rushing past your own existence. You begin to notice the details you once overlooked, the warmth of the sun, the sound of the wind, the rhythm of your breath. These small things become treasures when you are no longer blinded by impatience. Consider nature. The mountains were not formed in a day, the rivers carved their valleys through centuries, and the trees grew tall through decades of silent patience. Nothing in nature is rushed, yet everything is accomplished. The seasons arrive in their time, the flowers bloom in their season, and the fruits ripen when ready. Impatience belongs only to human beings who have forgotten the natural rhythm of life. By observing nature, you can learn patience. You can learn that things of value take time, that growth requires seasons, and that beauty emerges slowly. Patience also protects you from anger. When you are impatient, every obstacle feels like an insult. Every delay feels like an attack. Anger flares quickly, poisoning your peace and harming those around you. But patience is the shield against this anger. When you are patient, you do not react instantly. You breathe, you pause, you wait. This pause gives you power. It allows you to choose a wise response instead of a blind reaction. It prevents small frustrations from becoming large conflicts. In this way, patience is not only about waiting, it is about protecting your peace. The Buddha once said, "Patience is the highest asceticism." This means that patience is one of the greatest forms of discipline. To sit in silence when your mind screams for distraction, to remain kind when someone tests your limits, to keep walking when the journey feels endless. These require true strength. Patience is not the absence of power, it is power under control. It is the strength to endure without losing your center. Cultivating patience begins with awareness. Notice the moments when impatience arises. Perhaps it is when waiting in traffic, when standing in line, when dealing with someone who moves slowly, or when facing a goal that feels far away. In these moments, notice the restlessness in your body, the irritation in your mind. Instead of feeding it, breathe into it. Remind yourself, this moment is as it is. I cannot force it to be faster. I can only meet it with calm. Slowly, this practice rewires your mind. You begin to see waiting not as wasted time, but as an opportunity to practice presence. Meditation is also a training ground for patience. When you sit, thoughts will rush, discomfort will arise, restlessness will tempt you to quit. But if you remain, if you breathe and endure, you cultivate patience. Each time you choose not to give up, you strengthen this virtue. Over time, you carry this patience into daily life. Challenges no longer break you easily because you have trained the art of waiting with peace. Patience also requires trust. Trust that life has its own timing. Trust that what is meant for you will arrive when you are ready. Trust that delays are not denials, but part of your growth. Many people suffer because they believe that life is against them when things take longer than expected. But often, the waiting itself is preparation. A seed cannot bloom before it is ready. A lesson cannot be learned before its time. Trusting this truth allows you to rest in patience without bitterness. The fruits of patience are many. It deepens relationships because you no longer demand perfection from others. It strengthens growth because you remain steady through long journeys. It heals suffering because you endure with grace. It brings peace because you no longer rush through life but savor it. Most importantly, it reveals the beauty of each moment, teaching you that happiness is not waiting at the finish line, it is found in every step along the way. Imagine a river carving through rock. Each drop of water seems insignificant, but over time it shapes valleys and canyons. That is patience, the quiet force that transforms the impossible into reality. Impatience may feel powerful in the moment, but it burns quickly and leaves you weak. Patience, though silent, endures. And in the end, it is patience that wins. So ask yourself, where in your life do you need more patience? Is it with others, with yourself, with your dreams, or with life itself? Begin today. Breathe when you are restless, wait when you want to rush, and trust when you want to force. Each moment of patience is a victory, each act of patience a step toward peace. Patience is not simply waiting, it is waiting with calm, with trust, with strength. It is the art of living in harmony with time instead of fighting against it. Master patience, and you master one of life's greatest powers. For in patience lies resilience, in patience lies wisdom, and in patience lies the quiet happiness that no storm can destroy. 14. The freedom of acceptance. One of the hardest lessons for the human heart is the lesson of acceptance. From childhood, we are taught to strive, to resist, to fight against what we do not like and chase endlessly after what we desire. This way of living gives us the illusion of control, that if we push hard enough, if we complain loudly enough, if we refuse to accept, then life will eventually bend to our will. But reality does not work this way. Life has its own flow, its own rhythm, its own laws that are beyond our control. People change, circumstances shift, losses happen, and not everything turns out the way we imagine. When we refuse to accept reality as it is, we suffer twice, once from the situation itself, and again from our resistance to it. But when we embrace acceptance, we discover freedom. Acceptance is not resignation. It does not mean giving up, nor does it mean approving of injustice or harm. It means seeing life clearly and honestly, without denial or illusion. It means acknowledging reality as it is, not as we wish it to be. Acceptance allows you to stop wasting energy on fighting the unchangeable and instead focus your strength on what you can transform. It brings peace not because life becomes perfect, but because you stop demanding perfection from it. Think about the countless moments when resistance has stolen your peace. You face disappointment, but instead of accepting it, you replay it in your mind again and again, wishing it were different. You experience loss, but instead of grieving and letting go, you refuse to accept that it has happened, and the pain lingers like a wound that cannot heal. You face failure, but instead of learning from it, you deny it, cover it up, or curse it. In each of these cases, the situation itself is painful, but the refusal to accept multiplies the suffering. Acceptance is the medicine that stops this cycle. Buddhism teaches that life is impermanent, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Clinging to the illusion of control is the root of suffering. When you learn acceptance, you loosen your grip on this illusion. You begin to understand that not everything is meant to be fixed, not every question is meant to be answered, not every desire is meant to be fulfilled. Acceptance allows you to flow with the river of life instead of exhausting yourself trying to swim against its current. Consider the story of a man caught in a storm at sea. He can resist the waves, thrashing violently, trying to fight the ocean, but the more he resists, the weaker he becomes, and eventually the waves overpower him. Or he can accept that he cannot control the storm, surrender to its rhythm, and float with its force until it passes. Which choice gives him a chance at survival? In the same way, resistance exhausts the soul, but acceptance allows you to endure and find peace even in the middle of the storm. Acceptance is especially powerful when it comes to people. How often do we suffer because we demand that others be different? We want them to behave according to our expectations, to think as we think, to act as we wish. But people are who they are, shaped by their own experiences, wounds, and journeys. When you stop demanding that others change and instead accept them as they are, your heart becomes lighter. This does not mean you must tolerate harm or stay in unhealthy relationships, but it means releasing the burden of trying to control others. Acceptance of people gives you freedom to love them with compassion instead of frustration. Acceptance is also about yourself. Many people live in constant battle with themselves, ashamed of their past, dissatisfied with their present, fearful of their future. They refuse to accept their mistakes, their flaws, their humanity. They punish themselves endlessly, believing that only through harshness can they grow. But growth does not come from self-hatred, it comes from acceptance. When you accept yourself, you create the foundation for change. You see your flaws clearly, but instead of denying them or drowning in guilt, you embrace them as part of your journey. Acceptance of yourself allows you to move forward without the weight of shame. Patience and acceptance walk hand in hand. Patience is the ability to endure time, and acceptance is the ability to endure reality. Without patience, acceptance collapses into frustration. Without acceptance, patience collapses into resentment. Together, they create resilience. They allow you to meet life with calmness and strength. Acceptance also deepens gratitude. When you stop fighting reality, you begin to see the blessings hidden within it. Perhaps the job you lost made space for a better opportunity. Perhaps the person who left created room for you to discover your own strength. Perhaps the challenge you resisted taught you patience you never knew you had. Acceptance reveals these hidden gifts, not by changing reality, but by changing the way you see it. There is a teaching in Buddhism that says suffering is like an arrow. The first arrow is the pain itself, the disappointment, the loss, the failure. The second arrow is our resistance, our denial, our anger, our refusal to accept. We cannot avoid the first arrow because pain is part of life, but the second arrow is optional. Acceptance is the wisdom of refusing to shoot ourselves with that second arrow. It is the choice to endure pain without multiplying it into endless suffering. Acceptance also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are not the master of the universe, that you cannot bend everything to your will. But far from making you powerless, this humility makes you free. You no longer waste energy trying to control the uncontrollable. You redirect your strength toward what truly matters: your actions, your responses, your inner peace. Acceptance shifts your focus from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to asking, "How can I grow through this?" Meditation is one of the best ways to cultivate acceptance. When you sit in silence, you notice discomfort, restlessness, thoughts, emotions. The instinct is to fight them, to push them away. But meditation teaches you to accept them, to let them rise and fall without resistance. Over time, this practice trains your mind to meet all of life with the same attitude, allowing instead of fighting, witnessing instead of clinging, embracing instead of denying. Acceptance is not about inaction. It does not mean you stop working for change or improvement. It means that even as you act, you remain at peace with what is. You can strive for justice, pursue goals, and heal wounds, but without the desperation of resistance. You act from calmness, not from panic. This makes your actions more powerful because they are rooted in clarity rather than chaos. Imagine two farmers facing a drought. One refuses to accept it, curses the sky, wastes his energy in anger, and does nothing. The other accepts it, acknowledges reality, and begins to adapt, digging wells, conserving water, planting different crops. Which one survives? Acceptance does not paralyze, it empowers. It gives you the strength to see reality as it is and respond wisely. The freedom of acceptance is this: when you stop fighting life, you discover peace. The storm may still rage, but you are no longer consumed by it. The loss may still hurt, but you are no longer broken by it. The challenge may still remain, but you are no longer trapped in resistance. You are free, not because life has changed, but because you have. So ask yourself, what are you resisting in your life right now? What truth are you refusing to accept? Is it a past mistake, a present reality, a person you cannot change, or a future you fear? Imagine for a moment what would happen if you stopped resisting. Imagine the weight that would lift, the peace that would come. This is the gift of acceptance. It does not erase pain, but it removes unnecessary suffering. It does not make life perfect, but it makes life peaceful. Acceptance is not the end of effort, but the beginning of wisdom. It is the foundation upon which all peace is built. And when you master it, you step into a freedom that no circumstance can take away. You discover that happiness does not come from controlling life, but from accepting it fully, living it deeply, and flowing with it gracefully. 15. The power of forgiveness. If there is one burden that quietly poisons the heart more than almost any other, it is the burden of resentment. Human beings are wounded by words, betrayed by actions, abandoned by those they trusted, or disappointed by those they loved. These wounds can cut so deeply that they shape our entire view of life. We hold on to anger, telling ourselves that we are protecting our dignity. We replay old betrayals, convincing ourselves that if we never forget, we will never be hurt again. But what really happens is this: the longer we cling to resentment, the heavier it grows, until it becomes a chain around our spirit. Forgiveness is the key that breaks this chain. Buddhism teaches that forgiveness is not just a kindness offered to others, it is a gift of freedom you give to yourself. Forgiveness is often misunderstood. Many believe it means excusing wrongdoing, pretending the pain never happened, or welcoming back those who harmed us. But true forgiveness is none of these. Forgiveness does not erase the past, it transforms your relationship to it. Forgiveness does not mean trusting someone again when they have proven untrustworthy. It means releasing their power to poison your heart. Forgiveness is not about denying the wrong, it is about choosing peace over endless suffering. The Buddha taught that holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Anger feels powerful at first, but over time it corrodes your spirit. It makes you restless, bitter, and consumed by thoughts of revenge. The person who hurt you may move on, forget, or not even care, but you remain trapped in the prison of your own rage. Forgiveness is the way out. It does not change the past, but it changes the weight of the past upon your heart. Forgiveness begins with understanding. Every harmful action arises from ignorance, fear, or suffering. When someone betrays you, it is often because they themselves are lost in their own pain. When someone lashes out, it is because anger controls them more than wisdom guides them. This does not justify their actions, but it explains them. To see the suffering behind another's cruelty is the first step to releasing the poison of resentment. Compassion and forgiveness are twins. They grow together. Forgiveness is also about recognizing impermanence. The past cannot be undone. No matter how tightly you cling to your anger, it will not rewrite what has already happened. To keep replaying old wounds is to fight against reality, and as long as you fight, you suffer. Forgiveness is the acceptance of impermanence. It is saying, this pain was real, this hurt me deeply, but I will not allow it to control my present or my future. There are different layers of forgiveness. The first is forgiving others. This is the act of releasing the anger and resentment you hold toward those who have hurt you. You may never receive an apology, and you may never reconcile. Forgiveness does not depend on the other person's actions. It depends only on your choice. The second layer is forgiving life itself. Sometimes our resentment is not toward a person but toward circumstances, a lost opportunity, An illness, an unfair event. We resist and ask, why me? Forgiveness of life means letting go of bitterness toward what cannot be changed. The third layer is perhaps the hardest: forgiving yourself. Many people carry guilt or shame for mistakes they made long ago. They replay these memories, punishing themselves again and again. Forgiving yourself does not mean ignoring your mistakes. It means learning from them, making peace with them, and choosing not to be defined by them. The practice of forgiveness is not easy. The mind resists. It says, they do not deserve forgiveness. If I forgive, they win. If I forgive, it means what they did was okay. But this is illusion. Forgiveness is not about them. It is about you. It is about freeing your heart from the poison of anger. To refuse forgiveness is like carrying a burning torch in your hand, determined never to drop it, even as it scorches your skin. Forgiveness is the courage to finally let it fall. Buddhism offers practical ways to cultivate forgiveness. One of them is through meditation. Sit quietly, bring to mind someone who has hurt you, and allow yourself to feel the pain. Then, slowly, repeat words of release. May I let go of this anger. May I find peace. May I be free from resentment. Over time, you can extend these wishes toward the other person as well. May they be free from ignorance. May they find peace. May they stop causing harm. At first, your mind will resist. Anger may rise even stronger, but with persistence, the heart begins to soften. Forgiveness is not a single act. It is a practice, repeated again and again until the chains finally break. Forgiveness is not only healing for yourself, it also transforms relationships. When you forgive, you create space for reconciliation, if reconciliation is possible. Even if it is not, forgiveness allows you to interact with others without bitterness clouding your vision. You no longer carry old wounds into new connections. Your heart becomes lighter, more open, more ready to love. One of the most profound aspects of forgiveness is how it reshapes your view of strength. Many believe strength lies in holding on, in never forgetting, in protecting yourself with walls of anger. But true strength lies in letting go. It takes more courage to release resentment than to cling to it. It takes more wisdom to choose peace than to fuel revenge. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is mastery of the heart. There are stories throughout Buddhist tradition that show the power of forgiveness. One tells of a monk who was beaten and insulted by a robber. Instead of hating the man, the monk sat quietly and whispered, "I forgive you, because I know you suffer more than I do." Later, the robber, touched by the monk's calmness, changed his life. This story is not just about the monk's forgiveness. It is about how forgiveness can ripple outward, transforming not only the forgiver but also the one forgiven. Forgiveness also teaches you humility. To forgive is to admit that you too have hurt others, knowingly or unknowingly. None of us are innocent of causing pain. When you remember this, it becomes easier to soften toward those who have hurt you. You realize that forgiveness is not about elevating yourself above another, but about recognizing your shared humanity. In the end, forgiveness is not just about healing relationships. It is about freeing your soul. When you forgive, you release the weight that holds you down. You no longer carry yesterday's wounds into tomorrow's life. You open space in your heart for joy, compassion, and peace. Forgiveness transforms the past into a teacher instead of a prison. So ask yourself, what resentment are you still carrying? Who lives rent-free in your mind, occupying your thoughts with anger? What mistakes of your own still haunt you? Imagine what your life would feel like if you forgave. Imagine the lightness, the peace, the freedom. That freedom is possible, and it begins with one choice, the choice to forgive. The power of forgiveness is not in changing the past, but in changing the weight of the past upon your soul. It is the act of saying, "I will not let anger define me. I will not let bitterness control me. I choose peace. And in that choice lies a freedom greater than any revenge could ever bring. Forgiveness is not the end of justice, nor the denial of truth. It is the beginning of healing. And when you walk the path of forgiveness, you walk the path of freedom, love, and true happiness. 16. The joy of living in the present moment. Of all the lessons Buddhism offers, perhaps none is more essential and more transformative than the lesson of presence. The human mind has a strange habit. It is almost never where the body is. The body sits in one place, but the mind races elsewhere, back into the past, replaying regrets, or forward into the future, worrying about what might come. Days pass this way, then years, then decades. We keep waiting for happiness to arrive someday, while life quietly slips through our fingers. But the truth is simple and profound. Life is only ever here in this moment. The past is gone, the future is unborn, and the present is all you truly have. The art of living is the art of living now. Yet most people resist the present. They are trapped in what was or anxious about what will be. They replay old arguments, mistakes, and wounds as though clinging to them will change what has already happened. They invent stories about the future, fears, plans, hopes, believing that controlling the future in the mind will guarantee safety. But both are illusions. The past exists only as memory, the future only as imagination. The only real place to live is now. To miss the present is to miss life itself. The Buddha taught that mindfulness, sati, is the path to liberation. Mindfulness means awareness of the present moment without judgment. It is the practice of anchoring your attention to what is happening right now, your breath, your step, your thoughts, your feelings, the sights and sounds around you. When you are mindful, you are no longer lost in the illusions of yesterday or tomorrow. You are awake to today. And in that awakening, happiness naturally arises. Think about the last time you were completely present. Perhaps it was while watching a sunset, holding a loved one's hand, listening to music, or sitting in silence. In that moment, you were not worrying about yesterday or planning tomorrow. You were simply there. And in that presence, you felt peace. The truth is that presence is not rare. It is always available. What is rare is our willingness to stay with it. The mind is like a restless monkey, jumping from branch to branch, never satisfied with where it is. To live in the present moment is to gently train this monkey to rest. At first, it resists. It leaps away into thoughts of the past or future. But with patience, with mindfulness, you guide it back, again and again, until slowly it learns to sit in peace. Living in the present does not mean ignoring the past or denying the future. The past holds lessons, and the future requires planning. But both can be approached wisely, from the stability of presence. You can learn from the past without clinging to it. You can prepare for the future without fearing it. The difference is that you are rooted in now, using the past and future as tools rather than prisons. Consider a man walking through a beautiful garden. If his eyes are always on the path behind him, he misses the flowers in bloom. If his eyes are always fixed on the distant gate ahead, he misses the beauty along the way. Only when he looks around at the present does he experience the garden fully. Life is that garden. To live in the past or the future is to miss the flowers blooming right now. The power of presence is not only spiritual, it is practical. When you are present, you work with greater focus. You listen more deeply. You love more sincerely. You notice the opportunities and blessings that are already here. Stress often comes not from the moment itself, but from the mind's wandering. In this moment, you are usually safe. But when your mind drags you into what if, stress multiplies. Presence dissolves this illusion and returns you to calm. Mindfulness practice is one of the most direct ways to cultivate presence. Sit quietly and focus on your breath. Notice the sensation of air entering and leaving your body. When thoughts arise, do not fight them. Simply notice them and return to the breath. This simple practice trains the mind to stay here. Over time, you can bring this awareness into daily activities. When eating, taste each bite. When walking, feel each step. When speaking, listen fully to the other person. Every act becomes meditation when done with presence. The joy of presence is also the joy of simplicity. When you are present, you realize that happiness does not require extraordinary experiences. It is found in the ordinary, the warmth of sunlight, the laughter of a child, the taste of tea, the sound of birds. These moments are often overlooked when the mind is elsewhere, but when you are present, they shine with beauty. The world becomes richer, not because it has changed, but because you are finally seeing it. Presence also brings freedom from regret and worry. Regret is living in the past, replaying what cannot be changed. Worry is living in the future, fearing what may never come. Both steal your joy. Presence breaks their grip. It reminds you that the only place you can act, the only place you can heal, the only place you can live is now. The past is a memory. The future is a dream. Only the present is real. There is a story of a monk who was asked how he found peace. He said, "When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I sit, I sit. Most people are elsewhere, thinking of tomorrow or yesterday. I am here." This simple wisdom reveals a profound truth. Peace is not in doing more, but in doing fully what you are already doing. Living in the present also deepens relationships. How many times have you been with someone physically, but your mind was elsewhere, on your phone, on your worries, on your to-do list? True connection requires presence. When you are fully with someone, listening, noticing, being, love grows. You give them the gift of your attention, and in return, you experience intimacy that distraction cannot offer. Presence is perhaps the greatest act of love, yet presence requires courage. To be present means to face what is here, even if it is uncomfortable. Many people avoid presence because they fear their own thoughts or emotions. They drown themselves in distractions to avoid feeling. But presence asks you to stop running. It asks you to sit with yourself, to face your fears, your pain, your desires. And in facing them, you discover they are not as powerful as they seemed. Presence heals by bringing light to the shadows we try to avoid. Another gift of presence is contentment. When you are fully here, you realize that this moment is enough. You stop chasing the illusion that happiness is always in the next thing. You stop postponing joy until tomorrow. Instead, you discover that joy is already here, waiting for you to notice. This does not mean you stop growing or dreaming. It means you grow and dream without abandoning the present. You live your journey instead of rushing only toward the destination. The Buddha said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This teaching is both simple and profound. It is simple because the present is always here. It is profound because living in it fully transforms everything. To practice presence, start small. Take one activity each day and do it with full awareness, perhaps drinking tea, walking, or brushing your teeth. Notice the sensations, the movements, the sounds. Each time your mind wanders, gently return. Over time, presence becomes more natural. You begin to live not in fragments of time, but in the wholeness of now. Imagine your life if you lived each day with presence. Imagine savoring each meal, enjoying each conversation, appreciating each sunrise. Imagine facing challenges with calm because you are focused on this moment rather than drowning in what if. Imagine releasing regrets and worries because you have learned to live here. This is not a fantasy. It is possible, and it begins with one choice: to return to the present. The joy of living in the present moment is not about escaping life. It is about entering it fully. It is about realizing that life is not waiting for you somewhere in the future. It is happening now. Each breath, each step, each heartbeat is life. And when you awaken to this, happiness is no longer a distant goal. It is your constant companion. So ask yourself, where is your mind right now? Is it stuck in yesterday? Is it lost in tomorrow? Bring it back. Breathe. Feel this moment. This is your life. Live it here, live it now, and discover the joy that was waiting for you all along. 17. The strength of inner peace. Every person on earth longs for peace. We search for it in success, in relationships, in wealth, in recognition, and even in distractions. We tell ourselves that once everything outside of us is calm, then we will finally feel calm inside. Yet life never remains still. Circumstances shift, storms arrive, people disappoint, and unexpected challenges test us again and again. If peace depends on the world outside being perfect, then peace will always slip away like water through our hands. Buddhism teaches a different truth. Peace does not come from controlling the outside. It comes from mastering the inside. True strength is not found in conquering others, but in discovering the strength of inner peace. Inner peace is not escape from life. It is not hiding from challenges or pretending difficulties do not exist. Inner peace is the ability to remain calm in the middle of chaos, to stay centered when storms surround you, and to act with wisdom when everything around you tries to pull you into reaction. It is the calmness of a mountain, steady, silent, and unmoved, even when winds roar against its peak. The Buddha often compared the mind to water. When stirred by winds of desire, fear, or anger, the water becomes cloudy and turbulent. You cannot see clearly into it, and you cannot reflect truth. But when the water becomes still, clarity returns. The same is true of the mind. When it is restless, peace is hidden. But when it is calm, peace shines naturally. Inner peace, then, is not something you create. It is something you uncover, something that was always there beneath the noise. One of the greatest obstacles to peace is the mind's attachment to control. We want people to act as we expect, events to unfold as we planned, and life to follow the script we have written. But reality does not obey our commands. The more we cling to control, the more restless we become, because life inevitably refuses to conform. Inner peace is born when you release this grip. When you accept that you cannot control the waves, but you can learn to surf them, you free yourself. This acceptance does not make you passive, it makes you wise. You stop wasting energy on the impossible and start focusing on what is truly within your power, your response, your actions, your state of mind. Anger is another enemy of peace. When provoked, most people react instantly with harsh words or impulsive actions. In the moment, this feels like strength, but true strength is not reacting. It is pausing, breathing, and choosing. The ability to remain calm in the face of insult or conflict is a mark of mastery. As the Buddha said, a man is not called wise because he talks and talks again, but if he is peaceful, loving, and fearless, then he is truly called wise. Inner peace gives you this strength, the power not to be shaken by the storms others throw at you. Fear, too, robs the heart of peace. Fear of the future, fear of loss, fear of failure. These are like shadows that grow larger the more we feed them. But when you turn toward them with awareness, you see that they are not solid. They are illusions of the mind. Presence is the antidote to fear. When you remain in this moment, fear loses its grip because most fears are about what has not yet happened. Inner peace is the courage to rest in now, trusting that you can meet the future when it arrives. The practice of mindfulness is one of the most direct paths to inner peace. When you sit in meditation, observing your breath, you learn to watch thoughts and emotions without clinging or resisting. You realize that you are not your thoughts, not your fears, not your anger. You are the awareness behind them. This realization is profoundly liberating. It gives you space, the space to choose peace instead of being pulled into every storm the mind creates. With practice, this awareness extends beyond meditation into daily life. You begin to carry calm with you, like a flame that burns steadily no matter how strong the wind. Another essential ingredient of inner peace is compassion. When the heart is filled with hatred, bitterness, or resentment, peace cannot survive. Compassion softens these poisons. When you forgive others, when you see their suffering behind their actions, you release the anger that burns inside you. This does not excuse harm, but it frees you from carrying it. Forgiveness is not about them, it is about your peace. In the same way, when you treat yourself with compassion, forgiving your own mistakes, you stop fighting an endless war inside. Peace blossoms naturally when the heart is kind. Simplicity also nurtures peace. The more desires and attachments you carry, the more restless your mind becomes. You worry about protecting what you have, chasing what you lack, and comparing yourself with others. But when you simplify, keeping only what you need, focusing on what matters, you lighten your spirit. Peace grows in uncluttered spaces. It does not require more, it requires less. Less craving, less comparison, less noise. There is a story of a monk who was asked how he remained peaceful even when insulted. He replied, "If someone gives you a gift and you refuse to accept it, who does the gift belong to?" The people said, "It belongs to the one who offered it." The monk smiled. "Then if someone offers me anger and I do not accept it, it remains theirs, not mine." This is the wisdom of inner peace. You cannot control what others give you, but you can always choose what you accept. Inner peace does not mean you stop acting. It does not mean you withdraw from life. It means you act from a place of clarity rather than chaos. A peaceful mind sees more clearly, decides more wisely, and acts more effectively. Without peace, you are reactive, rushing into mistakes. With peace, you are thoughtful, steady, and strong. Peace is not passivity, it is power under control. Patience is also part of peace. Impatience is like fire, it consumes you from within. When you are impatient, every delay feels unbearable, every obstacle feels like an insult. But patience cools the fire. It reminds you that everything has its time, that rushing does not change reality. Patience gives you the ability to remain calm even when progress is slow. It teaches you that peace is not waiting for the destination, but walking calmly on the journey. Inner peace is also about alignment. When your actions match your values, your words match your intentions, and your life matches your heart, you feel harmony. But when you live with contradiction, saying one thing and doing another, chasing goals that do not match your soul, you feel restless. Alignment brings peace because there is no inner conflict. You are whole, and in wholeness, the heart rests. Another truth about peace is that it cannot be found in isolation from gratitude. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what you lack to what you have. Gratitude transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, and in that transformation, peace arises. You stop craving endlessly, and you start appreciating deeply. Peace is the natural companion of gratitude. The strength of inner peace is most visible in hardship. Anyone can feel calm when life is easy, but when challenges strike, loss, illness, betrayal, failure, that is when peace is truly tested. A peaceful person feels the pain, but they are not destroyed by it. They grieve, but they do not collapse. They bend, but they do not break. This strength is not loud, not aggressive. It is quiet, steady, and unshakable. Imagine a candle flame in a quiet room. It burns steadily, softly illuminating everything. Now imagine a strong wind blowing against it. If the flame is weak, it flickers and dies. But if it is strong, protected by glass, it continues to burn. Inner peace is that protective glass. The winds of life may blow, but your flame continues to shine. To cultivate this peace, practice daily. Create moments of stillness, time to breathe, to sit, to reflect. Notice when your mind is restless and gently return it to now. Practice letting go of what you cannot control, forgiving what has already passed, and appreciating what is here. With each small step, peace grows. The strength of inner peace is not only for yourself. When you live peacefully, you become a refuge for others. People feel safe in your presence because your calmness steadies them. You inspire others not by force, but by example. Your peace becomes a gift to the world, a reminder that even in chaos, calm is possible. So ask yourself, where does your peace come from? Is it tied to circumstances, to people, to possessions? Or is it rooted within yourself, where nothing can touch it? Begin today to cultivate the peace that cannot be shaken. Breathe deeply, live simply, forgive freely, love gently, and return to now. In that practice, you will discover the greatest strength of all, the strength of inner peace. 18. The wisdom of letting life flow. Human beings are born with a deep desire for control. From childhood, we try to shape the world around us, to make others behave as we wish, to force outcomes according to our plans, to demand certainty in a life that is anything but certain. This desire is understandable. Control gives the illusion of safety. But life is vast, unpredictable, and ever-changing. The harder we try to force it into the shape of our expectations, the more resistance we feel, and the more suffering we create. Buddhism teaches that peace does not come from controlling the river of life. It comes from learning to flow with it. The wisdom of letting life flow is not about passivity. It does not mean doing nothing, abandoning responsibility, or ignoring injustice. It means aligning yourself with reality instead of fighting it. It means understanding that you are part of life's current, not its master. The river flows whether you fight it or not. When you resist, you exhaust yourself, thrashing against its strength. But when you surrender to its rhythm, you find freedom. Think of water. Water is soft, gentle, and yielding, yet it carves valleys, shapes mountains, and wears down stone. It does not resist, it flows. If it meets an obstacle, it moves around it, patiently finding another path. In the same way, when you let your life flow, you discover a quiet power. You may face obstacles, but you do not break against them. You move with flexibility, patience, and wisdom. This is the strength of flow. It adapts, it persists, and it endures. Much of human suffering arises from resistance. We resist change, clinging to what we cannot keep. We resist uncertainty, demanding answers before their time. We resist pain, wishing it away instead of allowing it to teach us. But life is change, life is uncertain, and life includes pain. Resistance does not erase these truths. It only deepens our suffering. Flowing with life means embracing impermanence, accepting uncertainty, and allowing pain to shape us into stronger beings. The Buddha taught that impermanence, anicca, is one of the fundamental truths of existence. Everything changes. Seasons shift, bodies age, relationships evolve, and even mountains eventually crumble. To cling to permanence is to fight against the very nature of reality. But when you accept impermanence, when you let life flow, you discover peace. You stop demanding that things last forever and instead appreciate them while they are here. You stop fearing endings and start honoring beginnings. You live not in resistance, but in rhythm with life. Letting life flow also means releasing control over others. How often do we suffer because we want people to be different? We try to force them into our expectations, demanding that they think, act, or feel as we do. But people are like rivers. They have their own paths. shaped by their own experiences. To demand they flow according to our wishes is to invite endless conflict. Acceptance does not mean tolerating harm, it means recognizing that others are not ours to control. We can guide, inspire, and support, but we cannot, and should not, demand total control. When you let others flow, relationships become lighter, freer, and more genuine. Flow is also about trusting the timing of life. Many people rush endlessly, believing happiness lies just beyond the next goal, the next achievement, the next stage. But the river has its own pace. Flowers bloom when their season arrives, not when you demand it. The fruit ripens when it is ready, not when you are impatient. Your life, too, unfolds in seasons. Some seasons are of growth, some of rest, some of challenge, and some of abundance. When you flow with life, you stop forcing seasons. You learn to rest when it is time to rest, to act when it is time to act, to endure when it is time to endure. This trust gives peace. There is a story of a monk who once stood by a river, watching leaves float downstream. A student asked, "Master, what do you learn from the river?" The monk replied, "I learn to let go. The leaf does not cling, it does not resist, it flows, and still the river carries it where it must go." This simple image holds a deep truth. When you let life flow, you discover that you are carried, supported, and guided by forces larger than yourself. You no longer have to exhaust yourself trying to control everything. Flowing with life also teaches humility. It reminds you that you are part of a vast universe, not separate from it. The stars, the oceans, the forests, the seasons, they all flow without your control. You are not above this flow, you are within it. When you recognize this, your ego softens. You stop demanding that life revolve around your desires and begin to participate in life as it truly is. In this humility, peace arises. One of the most powerful practices of letting life flow is surrender. Surrender does not mean defeat, it means release. It is the willingness to stop fighting what cannot be changed and to work instead with what is. It is the wisdom of saying, "This is what is here. I will meet it. I will learn from it. I will grow through it." Surrender transforms pain into purpose and obstacles into opportunities. Living with flow also means embracing uncertainty. The human mind craves certainty. It wants guarantees, clear outcomes, and fixed paths. But life offers none of these. The future is unknown, no matter how carefully you plan. To flow with life is to accept uncertainty, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. It teaches you trust. It teaches you adaptability. It teaches you to live in the only place certainty truly exists, this moment. Presence is the gateway to flow. When you are present, you are no longer resisting what has already happened or fearing what may happen. You are here, in harmony with life as it unfolds. When walking, you simply walk. When breathing, you simply breathe. In this simplicity, the mind relaxes and flow becomes natural. Letting life flow also deepens resilience. When you fight life, every obstacle feels unbearable. But when you flow, obstacles become part of the path. They are no longer walls stopping you, but rocks guiding the river's course. This shift in perspective changes everything. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" Flow turns problems into teachers, pain into strength, and change into growth. Gratitude is also part of flow. When you flow with life, you stop focusing only on what is missing or what should be different. You begin to appreciate what is here, right now. Even challenges become blessings because they shape your journey. Gratitude transforms flow from passive acceptance into joyful participation. You are not just drifting, you are living fully, appreciating each moment as it arrives. Imagine a river once more. It does not cling to the stones in its path. It does not demand that the mountains move aside. It does not resist the bends and curves. It simply flows, and in flowing, it finds its way. Your life is that river. Let it flow, and you will discover that you, too, always find your way. The wisdom of letting life flow does not promise a life without struggle. Struggles will still come. Loss will still happen. Uncertainty will still remain. But when you flow, you are no longer broken by them. You bend, you adapt, you continue. You discover peace not because life is easy, but because you have stopped fighting its nature. So ask yourself, where are you resisting life? What are you clinging to? What are you fighting against? What truth are you refusing to accept? Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to release, to let go, to flow. Imagine the weight that would lift, the calm that would enter. That peace is possible, and it begins with one choice, the choice to stop resisting and start flowing. Letting life flow is the art of living with trust. Trust in impermanence. Trust in your own resilience. Trust in the unfolding of the universe. It is the wisdom of knowing that you do not need to control everything. You need only to meet each moment with awareness, with courage, and with peace. And when you live this way, you discover a freedom deeper than control, a strength greater than resistance, and a joy more lasting than fleeting victories. You discover the wisdom of flow. 19. The courage to walk the middle path. In a world of extremes, balance often feels forgotten. We are pulled in one direction by desire, in another by fear. We swing between overindulgence and harsh self-denial, between endless striving and complete resignation. Life becomes a pendulum, moving from one extreme to the next, never resting in peace. Buddhism offers a profound solution to this restless swinging, the middle path. The middle path is not weakness nor compromise. It is wisdom. It is the path of balance, the art of walking between extremes, the courage to live with moderation, clarity, and peace. The Buddha himself discovered the middle path through his own life. Born into privilege, he first lived a life of luxury, indulging in every pleasure, yet he found it empty, unable to satisfy the longing of the soul. Later, in search of truth, he turned to extreme asceticism, starving, denying and punishing his body. Yet this too failed, leaving him weak and without clarity. Only when he abandoned both extremes did he awaken. He realized that neither indulgence nor self-denial leads to freedom. Freedom is found in balance. This became the foundation of the middle path, the heart of his teaching. The middle path is not just about food or comfort. It is about every aspect of life. It is about learning when to act and when to rest, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to strive and when to let go. It is about living in harmony with yourself and the world, without being enslaved by extremes. To walk the middle path requires courage, because the world often glorifies excess. People admire wealth without limit, ambition without rest, discipline without kindness. To walk in balance is to resist these illusions and to choose wisdom over impulse. Consider desire. To deny desire completely is unnatural. It creates repression, frustration, and even greater craving. To indulge every desire without restraint leads to addiction, dissatisfaction, and emptiness. The middle path teaches moderation, enjoying life's pleasures with awareness, but not clinging to them. You may enjoy food, but you do not become a slave to it. You may enjoy success, but you do not tie your worth to it. Desire is no longer your master. You hold it gently without being consumed. Consider discipline. Too little discipline leads to laziness and stagnation. Too much discipline leads to rigidity, harshness, and burnout. The middle path teaches balance, discipline guided by compassion. You strive to grow, but you also rest when needed. You train your mind, but you do not punish yourself cruelly. This balance allows growth to be sustainable, joyful, and wise. The middle path also applies to emotions. Some people suppress emotions, fearing vulnerability. Others drown in emotions, controlled by every wave of anger, fear, or sadness. The middle path teaches awareness. You allow emotions to rise, but you do not let them rule you. You feel them fully, learn from them, and let them pass. In this way, you neither deny nor drown, you simply flow. Walking the middle path also means balance between self and others. Too much focus on self creates selfishness, isolation, and greed. Too much focus on others creates neglect, exhaustion, and loss of self. The middle path teaches compassion that includes both. You care for others with kindness, but you also care for yourself with respect. You give without losing yourself, and you protect yourself without becoming cold. This balance creates relationships rooted in love and health, not in sacrifice or control. Another aspect of the middle path is balance between action and stillness. Some people act constantly, believing their worth lies in endless productivity. Others withdraw completely, believing peace is found only in escape. The middle path teaches that both are needed. There is time for work and time for rest, time for striving and time for silence. Peace is not found in constant movement, nor in total withdrawal. It is found in harmony between the two. The middle path is also about balance in thought. Too much skepticism closes the mind. Too much blind faith blinds it. The middle path teaches wise reflection. You question, but with humility. You believe, but with awareness. You walk between doubt and blind acceptance, guided by both reason and trust. One of the great strengths of the middle path is that it brings freedom from extremes. When you live in extremes, life feels like a battlefield. You are always fighting desire, fighting fear, fighting yourself. But when you walk in balance, you step out of the war. You discover peace not by conquering everything, but by aligning with harmony. There is a story of a musician who asked the Buddha how to meditate. The Buddha asked him, "When the string of your instrument is too loose, what happens?" The musician replied, "It does not play." The Buddha asked again, "And when the string is too tight?" The musician said, "It breaks." The Buddha smiled. So it is with the mind. Not too loose, not too tight. This is the middle path. This wisdom applies not only to meditation, but to every part of life. Balance is the key. Walking the middle path requires awareness, because extremes are tempting. Indulgence feels pleasant in the moment, and denial feels noble. Balance feels quiet, unnoticed. But it is in balance that peace resides. Extremes burn out quickly, but balance endures. Balance creates a life of steady joy, where happiness is not dependent on extremes, but flows naturally from harmony. The middle path is also deeply practical. When you live in balance, you avoid the exhaustion of overwork and the emptiness of laziness. You avoid the chaos of uncontrolled emotion and the coldness of repression. You avoid the suffering of endless craving and the emptiness of total denial. Instead, you live with wisdom, peace, and sustainability. Patience is essential to the middle path. Extremes are often driven by impatience. The desire for quick pleasure, quick results, quick recognition. Balance requires patience because real growth is slow, steady, and lasting. Just as a tree grows not in a single day, but over years of silent patience, so too does wisdom grow through balance, not through extremes. Gratitude also supports the middle path. Extremes are fueled by dissatisfaction, the belief that what you have is not enough. Balance is fueled by gratitude, the recognition that what you have is already a blessing. Gratitude anchors you, preventing you from swinging wildly between craving and denial. The middle path is also the path of resilience. Extremes break easily. A rigid tree snaps in the storm, while a flexible one bends and survives. Balance gives you flexibility, the strength to adapt, to endure, to continue. In balance, you are neither rigid nor weak, you are steady. Walking the middle path does not mean life becomes easy. Challenges will still arise, temptations will still appear, but with balance, you meet them with wisdom. You do not swing from one extreme to the other, you walk steadily forward. You live not in chaos, but in peace. So ask yourself, where in your life are you living in extremes? Are you indulging too much or denying too much? Are you working without rest or avoiding responsibility? Are you consumed by others or neglecting them completely? Each imbalance is a call to return to the middle path. The courage to walk the middle path is the courage to resist extremes, to embrace balance, and to trust that wisdom lies not in force, but in harmony. It is the path of moderation, the path of sustainability, the path of peace. And when you walk it, you discover a happiness that does not burn out, but endures. The middle path is not just the Buddha's teaching, it is nature's teaching. The sun rises and sets, not too early, not too late. The seasons change in balance, heat and cold, rain and dry. The body itself survives in balance, between rest and activity, between nourishment and fasting. To walk the middle path is to walk in harmony with the rhythm of life itself. And so the lesson is clear. Do not be seduced by extremes. Do not be fooled by their glamour. Choose balance, choose moderation, choose harmony. Walk the middle path, and you will walk the path of freedom, wisdom, and lasting peace. 20. The strength of silence. In a world filled with noise, silence is one of the rarest treasures. From the moment we wake up, we are surrounded by sound. Phones buzzing, televisions playing, conversations overlapping, traffic roaring, thoughts racing in the mind. For many, silence feels uncomfortable, even threatening. They rush to fill it with music, chatter, or distraction, as though silence itself were empty. Yet Buddhism teaches a profound truth. Silence is not empty, it is full. Full of clarity, full of wisdom, full of peace. The strength of silence is not in the absence of sound, but in the presence of awareness. Silence has always been at the heart of spiritual practice. The Buddha himself spent long periods in silence, not because he had nothing to say, but because silence reveals truths that words cannot. Words are powerful, but they are limited. They point to truth, but they are not truth itself. Silence, on the other hand, allows truth to be directly experienced. In silence, the mind slows, the heart opens, and the soul begins to hear the quiet voice of wisdom within. One of the first lessons silence teaches is the art of listening. Most people believe they are listening, but in truth, they are only waiting to respond. Their minds are busy forming replies, judging words, or drifting elsewhere. True listening requires silence, not only of the mouth, but of the mind. When you listen in silence, you hear not only words but emotions, not only sounds but intentions. You connect more deeply because you are fully present. Silence gives you the strength to truly listen to others, to life, and to yourself. Silence is also the ground of mindfulness. When you sit in silence, observing your breath, you begin to notice the noise of the mind, the constant chatter, the endless commentary, the rushing thoughts. At first, this noise may feel overwhelming, but as you remain in silence, you begin to see the mind more clearly. Thoughts rise and fall, emotions appear and dissolve, and you realize you are not the noise, you are the awareness behind it. This realization is the beginning of freedom. The strength of silence also lies in restraint. In moments of anger, the urge to speak can be powerful. Words rush to the tongue, sharp and heavy, ready to wound. But once spoken, they cannot be taken back. How many relationships have been broken? How many hearts wounded by words spoken in haste? Silence is strength in these moments. To remain quiet when provoked is not weakness, it is mastery. It is the wisdom of holding back, of waiting until clarity returns. Silence gives you space, and in that space you choose peace over reaction. There is a story of a monk who was insulted by a man in the marketplace. The monk said nothing, simply bowed his head and walked away. A student asked, "Master, why did you not defend yourself?" The monk replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you refuse to take it, to whom does the gift belong?" The student answered, "It remains with the giver." The monk smiled. "So it is with anger. I did not accept it, and so it remains his, not mine." This is the strength of silence, the ability to remain untouched by the noise of others. Silence also deepens your connection with nature. In silence, you hear the song of birds, the whisper of wind through trees, the rhythm of waves. These sounds, too subtle for noisy minds, become a symphony when you are quiet. Nature teaches patience, presence, and impermanence, all lessons revealed in silence. Many spiritual practitioners throughout history have sought nature not for escape, but for the silence it offers, a silence that reflects the stillness within. Silence is not only outer, it is inner. You may sit in a quiet room, yet your mind may scream with noise. True silence is not the absence of sound, but the absence of inner conflict. It is the calmness of a mind at rest, the clarity of a heart at peace. Cultivating inner silence means learning to let go of unnecessary thoughts, judgments, and worries. It means returning again and again to the breath, to the present, to awareness. Inner silence is strength because it makes you unshakable. No matter the chaos outside, you remain steady within. The practice of noble silence, observed in many Buddhist traditions, is a powerful training. For hours, days, or even weeks, practitioners refrain from speaking, allowing the mind to settle. At first, the silence feels heavy. Without words, without distraction, the mind resists. But slowly, the resistance fades, and a deeper silence arises, the silence of awareness itself. In this silence, insights come, not as words, but as understanding. You realize that much of what we say is unnecessary, that truth often requires fewer words than we think. Silence is also the foundation of wisdom. When the mind is noisy, wisdom is hidden. It is drowned out by the loud voices of fear, desire, and ego. But when the mind grows quiet, wisdom rises like the moon in a still night sky. Many of life's answers do not come from endless thinking, but from silence. When you stop forcing, the truth emerges on its own. Silence gives space for clarity to reveal itself. The strength of silence also protects peace. In arguments, silence prevents escalation. In conflict, silence prevents violence. In the heart, silence prevents restlessness. To be silent is not to be powerless. It is to choose where your energy flows. Instead of scattering it in endless words and reactions, you conserve it, nurture it, and direct it wisely. Forgiveness, too, is rooted in silence. To forgive is often not about words spoken, but about a silent release in the heart. You may never say the words aloud, but in silence you let go of anger. Gratitude, too, often blossoms in silence, the quiet recognition of blessings, the wordless appreciation of life as it is. Some of the deepest emotions cannot be spoken, they can only be felt in silence. Silence also teaches humility. In silence you realize how small you are compared to the vastness of life, and yet how deeply connected you are to everything. Words often create separation. I and you, mine and yours, here and there. Silence dissolves these boundaries. In silence, you feel the unity of existence, the truth that all beings share the same longing for peace. But perhaps the greatest strength of silence is that it reveals who you truly are. Beneath the layers of noise, distraction, and identity, there is a stillness within you. A stillness that is not touched by pain or pleasure, success or failure, praise or blame. This stillness is your true nature. It cannot be harmed, it cannot be broken, it cannot be taken away. In silence, you return to this nature. You remember who you are. To cultivate silence, you do not need to retreat to mountains or monasteries. Begin with small moments each day. Turn off the noise for a few minutes. Sit quietly. Breathe. Listen. Allow yourself to simply be. These small practices grow over time, deepening your connection to silence. Eventually, you carry silence with you everywhere, even in the middle of noise. You discover that silence is not outside, it is within. So ask yourself, when was the last time you truly sat in silence? When was the last time you listened not to reply, but to hear? When was the last time you allowed yourself to rest in the quiet presence of now? Begin today. Make space for silence. Honor it, protect it, and return to it often, for in silence lies strength. In silence lies clarity. In silence lies peace. And in silence you discover the deepest truth, that you were never separate from wisdom, never separate from peace, never separate from happiness. You only needed the silence to hear it. When we began this journey, the goal seemed simple: to learn how to choose happiness, even when life is difficult. But as the path unfolded, we discovered that happiness is not something distant, not something promised at the end of endless striving. It is not a reward waiting in the future, nor a gift handed by others. Happiness is a practice. It is a choice. It is a way of living in harmony with life as it truly is. Throughout these lessons, we explored many truths: that happiness is a choice, that patience brings resilience, that silence brings clarity, that forgiveness frees the heart, that compassion expands love, that non-attachment brings freedom, that presence reveals joy, and that contentment is the greatest wealth. Each of these lessons points in the same direction, toward the discovery that peace and happiness are not outside of you, but within you. The Buddha never promised a life free from suffering. Instead, he taught the Four Noble Truths: that suffering exists, that it arises from craving and attachment, that it can end, and that the path to its end is the Noble Eightfold Path. What this means is simple but powerful. Suffering is real, but it is not final. Happiness is possible, but it is not automatic. It is cultivated, practiced, and chosen moment by moment. One of the greatest illusions we must overcome is the belief that life must be perfect before we can be happy. We say, "I will be happy when I succeed, when I find love, when I heal, when the world is peaceful." But life is never perfect. There will always be storms, losses, and challenges. If happiness depends on perfection, it will never arrive. The wisdom of Buddhism is that happiness is not the absence of struggle. It is the ability to remain at peace within struggle. It is the lotus that blooms in the mud, untouched by the filth around it. This path requires courage. It is not easy to forgive when anger feels justified. It is not easy to let go when clinging feels safe. It is not easy to be present when the mind is restless. It is not easy to practice patience when the heart aches for instant relief. Yet each small act of courage strengthens the spirit. Each time you choose peace instead of reaction, forgiveness instead of bitterness, gratitude instead of craving, you grow. And over time, these small choices become habits. Habits become character. Character becomes destiny. The journey inward is not a journey of escape. It is a journey of return. Return to the truth of who you are. Beneath the noise of the mind, beneath the storms of emotion, beneath the weight of suffering, there is a stillness within you. This stillness is your true nature. It is awareness, presence, peace. You cannot lose it, though you may forget it. Meditation, mindfulness, compassion, patience, all these practices are simply ways of remembering. They help you return to the stillness that has always been there. Imagine your life as a river. At times, the surface is turbulent, with waves of anger, fear, or desire crashing loudly. At times it is calm, reflecting the sky like a mirror. But beneath both, the river flows steadily, always moving, always alive. Your mind is the same. Beneath the turbulence of thought and emotion lies the steady flow of awareness. When you learn to rest in that awareness, the surface no longer controls you. You are no longer tossed by every wave. You become the river itself. This is the heart of peace. All the lessons we explored are threads of the same fabric. Non-attachment frees you from clinging. Contentment frees you from craving. Patience frees you from restlessness. Compassion frees you from hatred. Forgiveness frees you from resentment. Presence frees you from distraction. Silence frees you from noise. Together, they weave the fabric of a life lived in harmony, and in this harmony, happiness blooms naturally. The true purpose of these teachings is not just to inspire you, but to transform you. Inspiration without action fades quickly, like a candle in the wind. But when you practice, when you live these truths daily, they take root. They become part of who you are. Start small. Choose one practice, perhaps mindfulness of the breath, or gratitude at the end of the day, or patience in moments of stress. Practice it gently but consistently. Over time, add more. Let each lesson become not just knowledge but living wisdom. And remember, the path is not straight. You will stumble. You will forget. You will lose your peace and fall into anger or fear. This too is part of the journey. The practice is not about never falling. It is about returning each time you do. Like walking a path through the forest, the more times you return, the clearer the trail becomes. Soon, it is the natural way you walk. Perhaps the greatest gift of all these teachings is freedom. Freedom from craving, from fear, from resentment, from comparison. Freedom to live fully, to love deeply, to face suffering without collapse. Freedom to be at peace, not because life is easy, but because you are steady within it. This is true strength, not the strength to control the world, but the strength to master yourself. So let us return to the beginning. The question was, how can you push yourself to be happy even when life gets hard? The answer is this: happiness is not in resisting hardship, nor in waiting for it to end, but in learning to carry peace within you, no matter what arises. It is in practicing patience, forgiveness, compassion, silence, presence, contentment, and non-attachment until they become the way you live. It is in choosing, again and again, to flow with life instead of fighting it. Happiness is not a faraway destination. It is here. It is in this breath, in this step, in this moment. All that is required is that you stop searching outside and begin cultivating within. So as you leave this journey, carry these truths with you. Let them guide your thoughts, shape your actions, and soften your heart. Remember that every day is a chance to practice, every challenge is a chance to grow, and every moment is a chance to choose peace. The river of life will continue to flow, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy. But if you have learned the wisdom of this path, you will no longer fear the current. You will walk with balance, live with compassion, act with patience, forgive with freedom, love without clinging, and rest in silence. And in doing so, you will discover the greatest treasure of all, the happiness that was within you all along.